Is there anything besides this show, besides the vagina bulge and the guy having a small dick? Like,
No,
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten to the
we haven't even
main
gotten
point of
into
the
the plot
show.
yet.
Yeah, we
okay,
just got a little bit hung up on the
okay,
vaginal
on the
bulge
ass,
there.
on the
but-
badge and the ass. Okay, continue.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Seasonal Discharge. Today, I am joined with Tamika Likes to Draw
Hello.
and Mr. Thicc.
Konnichiwa.
Today, we are going to be talking about the summer season of anime 2023. The first show we are going to be talking about is Zom 100.
Zone 100 makes the observation that we do, in fact, live in a society, which I think is a very bold and true statement.
Bro. Japan is not okay.
Zom 100. It. I feel like it communicates the idea that society is so bad, especially Japanese society, that there actually are some people out there who would much rather live in like a zombie apocalypse. Because
Is that
Yeah.
is that really like a Japanese exclusive thing though? Because I feel that's like
well,
that's
I
like
say
a general, yeah.
I say especially Japan because I mean society is bad everywhere except
Yeah.
for like some
It's just like their
but like
terrible work culture makes
but
it
like
so much worse.
yeah, it's so much worse in Japan. But like it sort of reminds me of like how in a lot of these zombie apocalypse stories, like say if you have characters who like discovered a cure, you have like these people who are like, no, we're not, because I actually like the way society
Hmm.
is right now. Where ironically, despite the fact that we live in a zombie apocalypse, we also have like way more freedom to do as we please with our lives compared to when we lived in like normal society.
It's kind of this
Mhm.
idea of like, oh, society is no more. You can just do whatever you want. You're kind of like free now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think I of course agree that Japan is kind of like a bad thing going on with its working culture, but I think that general like power fantasy of like, oh yeah, I don't have to do any of my normal stuff I normally have to do. I can just be like do whatever I want because there's no more society, and we're gonna like kill zombies and stuff. I feel it's like a general like something you see a lot in these kind of stories.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. Because I've never really understood the appeal of zombie stuff. I've never liked it. And I kind of wonder if that is literally because I'm like a very privileged person who's never had to work like a shitty job that he wants
Well,
to quit.
I feel like most zombie stories usually like stories like The Walking Dead or like The Last of Us. To some extent, like what the humans are trying to do is like even though because there's zombies everywhere and as far as they know there's no cure, they're trying to get as close to like recreating how society used to function with like all these societies that they have. Um
Yeah, I think a lot of those kind of like stories, like I think especially Last of Us is like a good example where it's like, oh, society is or like the world is so fucked now. How does it
mhm.
affect like the relationship people have with each other?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's like super strained, and stuff like The Walking Dead. A lot of this about like, okay, well, shit is super strained. How do we like organize the best that we can?
It's just sort of interesting because in most zombie stories, like you have like them showing the beginning where society is normal and like they're like, oh, so happy and yeah. But then in this show, uh okay, so the episode starts with him like taking on this new job, the main character whose name I can't remember. And he's like super psyched. He's like, oh
just,
yeah, I'm gonna
just call him a wage slave.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's cause it's weird because I mentioned like how in the face of the zombie apocalypse, you like weirdly get more freedom. But like I can see why a person would also be like excited to get a job because I mean it's like,
He's
oh
he's excited to be a productive member of
yeah,
society doing what he's passionate about.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
contributing to society and also getting paid also provides a freedom in well, that's what you expect at least until you realize how much time you're going to be spending at your job, as the main character does, and he's like slowly beaten down as the episode progresses. He's like, holy shit, what the fuck has my life become? Like, my life is literally just work. And they communicate how beaten down he is by like, so the episode becomes like grayscale and like black and white to communicate how depressed he is.
He becomes like a zombie. He is a
Whoa,
metaphorical
no
zombie.
way.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, when you think
actually,
about
It's
it, that's
very
yeah.
I think that's kind of like, have you guys seen Shaun of the Dead?
No, I haven't.
no.
Like that one does like a similar thing at the beginning where it kind of showcases the main character's life to be like very like kind of like drab or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the scene where like the zombie outbreak happens, it's kind of like the whole joke that he's so like stuck in his like routine of his just like kind of like whatever life that he doesn't even notice that like everyone around him is walking around like zombies. Like yeah, I mean that's kind of what I mentioned earlier
Oh.
with like I don't know, I feel that a lot of like sure like I feel that Song is kind of unique in the sense it's like okay this is like the main thing it is about. But I feel like kind of the elements it does is something you see like more often. I
Mm-hmm.
am and something I wanted to like because I saw like stuff that apparently it seems to be that kind of like journey to this like career stuff is kind of supposed to be like a jab at apparently this like animation studios like former like workplace where they used to work because like what it feels like or more specifically his like tragedy is with this guy is that like oh he wants to work at this like advertisement bureau, and I think there's like a line where it's kind of like, okay, this is a particular good advertisement bureau. This is like the thing he wants to do, the thing he cares about. And then there's like a switcheroo where it's like, oh yeah, but actually it's like sucks to work here, which definitely
Yeah.
makes sense if you put it in the context of like animators who want to animate and go to the animate studio to like do work there, and then they find out like, oh, it's like horrible to like, it's like a horrible like working culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in this was when he says, "This must be one of those exploitative corporations." And the first thing that came to my mind is implying that there are non-exploitative
Well,
corporations.
I think specifically he called it a black company,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is like a specific type of company where they're literally like breaking the law in
Yeah.
order to
Yeah,
abuse their workers. They're
because
like
they would
doing
like
wage
they would
theft and
make
stuff.
them stay over there. Like you would literally just sleep
Yeah.
in the work building and work like way more hours than your contract probably says you'd be working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all those game devs do.
Yeah. And then when the zombie apocalypse starts, he's like, "Wait a minute. This means I don't have to go to work anymore." And is like super excited and super happy, and then the
The
world,
world fills with
yeah,
color.
it fills with
Everything is
color.
so colorful
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
as these zombies are devouring innocent citizens.
Yeah.
I definitely like the directing of this show, and like how a lot of it's presented. But I do think it's a very like yeah, it is a very much like oh we live in a society kind of thing where it's very like on the nose with what's like trying to do, which I think
Yeah.
kind of makes it like less interesting.
But
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like,
I don't know because like the things you mentioned earlier with like oh first it's like all like black and grayscale and it's all like super dour and then like oh it then the apocalypse happened then everything's super colorful.
I kind of like that because it's a very easy way to like communicate
yeah.
how his
Yeah,
world looks from his perspective.
I do think it's very yeah again I do the one thing I will definitely like about the show is like the like directing and stuff and like the editing.
Hmm.
um but yeah I don't know it's just not a I don't know it's just not a very like interesting thing to be like oh yeah society sucks. It's way better to live in like a zombie apocalypse because society sucks so just so much.
Hmm.
That I know it just doesn't feel like a very like interesting thing to be about.
Sounds like you don't work at a black company.
It's not that I disagree necessarily with that part. It's just that like I don't
It's
know.
over. Would you say that it's like overused, that type of commentary?
Yeah, it's just it's very, that's what I mean with like we live in a society kind of feel it has to it, where it
Yeah.
feels like it very much like hammers on a point which is like I feel is like pretty obvious, like it sucks to live at it sucks at a company like that, and it's
Yeah.
it kind of, I feel it like it's more profound than it actually is in that sense, where it's like, okay, we get it.
I guess I just liked that they really take you through like the narrative from his personal POV.
Mm-hmm.
We really get to see like his experience of like how he felt about it, his excitement and his disappointment and all these feelings he has along the way.
Yeah.
Which for me, I feel like that's what really separates like We Live in a Society from an actually good show, is that the We Live in a Society stuff is so like it feels like it's really doing something, like it thinks it's doing something so cool by pointing this out that it like doesn't even need to bother with all the other shit that comes with writing a good story.
I mean, the definitely first part what you said definitely applies to this show, like right,
Hmm.
like
No, because
show,
like
yeah.
it's it's all about him. It's not like
Yeah,
the
it's just
show.
purely from his perspective.
Yeah, like the takeaway is that we live in a society. But if you're like summarizing the episode, what's happening is like, he's I'm excited to go to a new job. Like this is what I've always wanted to do. Oh no, this doesn't meet my
This didn't live up
expectations.
to
I have a
expectations.
crush.
This actually
Um,
kind of
My
sucked.
crush is sleeping with my boss.
yeah,
Yeah.
like okay, so like I agree that this show isn't like incompetent necessarily.
I think it's meant to be like a really relatable experience, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why it might seem so obvious because it's like one of the easiest things to sort of use to sort of get the audience, especially a Japanese audience, to relate to the character. Because there's probably a lot of people who have a very similar experience.
yeah. I mean, I agree it's relatable, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree that it's like incompetent, because sure, the show like showcases like his like journey through like that, where I like realize like, oh, this situation super fucking sucks. Which like sure, it's doing the thing a story should be doing. But the thing that you mentioned is like true to the show too, where it's like it lays its main message is like it's like super thick, lays on top of it like super thick, and it doesn't really isn't like nuanced in a lot of ways. Because also with like the
Mhm.
portrayal of like the company, it's like um it's like cartoonishly like evil. Like there's also like a scene where he apparently has to
Oh,
throw away all his work because like his boss is like a nepo son who wants to like be in the advertisement, and he's like, "What? No, I work so hard on this for my team."
I wouldn't expect the show to have a lot of focus on that because, like, I
What
mean,
kind of focus?
I've only seen 2 episodes on this, but like the part about his job is not necessarily like the main part of the plot. So I wouldn't expect them to like focus on that a whole lot and like go into it with all this nuance because
It's yeah. I'm
it's meant to
just
be
sure.
like a
I'm just like pointing out in what ways I feel it's very much like we live in a
yeah.
society like thing. Like the other thing is also with like that crush she has on, where it's like
Hmm.
first like, oh, she's like a pure man that he falls in love with, and it's like his first crush. But oh no,
Hmm.
then it turns out she's actually, yeah, like fucking the boss to like get promotion or something. I don't know whether I specified that. But, like yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's very like, oh yeah, it looks sucks to live in a society. He's like being victimized like through all like the systems, and it is done in a very like I said, like cartoonish way, where it's like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
it's company doesn't care about him in all these ways, and there's like and it's all like superficial, and everyone is kind of like acting degenerate.
I mean, I
And
guess it being cartoony is meant to be kind of the point because the show isn't it. I don't get the vibe that this show is meant to be like that grounded in reality. You know?
Hmm.
I know I can like imagine like alternative versions of this shows a bit less cartoony. But like I mean, you can like that it's a we live in a society like show or episode in this guy. I haven't seen the rest of it.
Hmm.
Um, But like I'm just pointing out, this is why I think it's very much like we live in a society kind of show, because it's very much like lays it on super thick. Like, oh, there are all these institutions and they all suck, and everyone is like kind of like hypocritical and like double faced in this, and and then it's like, oh, and then there's zombie apocalypse. Actually, that's way better.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can definitely see how getting that from a show would be weary if if you spend a lot of time hearing that being repeated ad nauseum in some of the conversations that we have sometimes online, especially in
Um.
political circles. So there you go. I can
Yeah.
kind of see it.
I don't. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's just that. Like, yeah. I know you can like it for it being like a we live in society
Yeah.
show. Like I
Mhm.
just don't like that kind of like storytelling where it's like super one note, like laying on super thick like one thing. Um.
Mm.
And again, I don't
Did
think
it?
it's incompetent. I think it's generally doing what's trying. It's like generally achieving what it's trying to do. I just don't like
Did
what's like aiming at.
Yeah.
Did anyone else
I
watch the second episode?
I don't think I did.
Nah.
No.
I say the way the second episode starts is like really kind of funny to me because the guy is in a zombie apocalypse and like he's not really he just continues living his life like normal, like he's in his house. He hasn't fortified his house at all. He's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna have a beer and I'm just gonna relax. And I don't know, it's really funny how like he has this sort of super casual approach to everything, and then he's just like, yeah, oh wait, I'm out of food. I'm just gonna go out and buy some food. Well, not buy some food. I guess I'm just gonna take some food at the store.
You know what? I did watch the second episode now that you're describing it.
Yeah, and then
You were born.
he comes across this family on the way there, and I was like, man, this family is like, he asks them if there's anything they would like to bring. He would like, they would like him to bring them, and you know they're like, we could use some tissue paper, I guess, blah 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 blah. And I was like, it seemed pretty obvious to me that by the time he gets back, they're probably gonna be dead because their designs were pretty generic. And I mean, that's that's more or less what happened. As soon as he got back, they were dead. Uh, oh, and then there's this one character at the end of the. Oh yeah, no, actually, he meets her at the store, and it's like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on with her. I'm getting like sort of like spy vibes, maybe. Like she's definitely not just your average person. I seem to remember them saying she's from America. And like the way this episode is structured is like it shows the main character's perspective first, for like the first half, and then it shows her perspective in the second half, and it sort of like shows where they meet. And I don't know, it being like a zombie apocalypse show and it showing the two perspectives and where they meet up and cross over with each other. It reminded me a little bit of the Resident Evil games, Resident Evil 2, which is a game I played recently. You know, the Leon and Claire scenarios. A little bit. I don't know. That's just something I thought of when I was watching that.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10.
I do like the directing and stuff. I
hmm
especially the moment when he realized that like the zombie apocalypse going on. Um.
Yeah, and you have all that colorful blood all over the place.
Yeah. And also the way it like I'm not sure if I remember this right, but like the way it like uses a lot of distortion too, right? Do I
Hmm.
remember this right? Like yeah, like the way it like uses that in like the a lot of the like early like grayscale parts.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's got kind of like these wide angle shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one point early on in the episode where, like, at the beginning, it has like the two black bars, and it kind of made it feel like I was watching a movie. And then when the colors come back, the black bars go and it becomes full widescreen. That was also kind of neat too.
Well, does anyone else have any final thoughts on this show?
Well, that's about it for me.
Yeah.
All right. The next show is Reborn as a Vending Machine, an anime that we talked about already on this podcast. and I had very high praises for,
Really? Okay.
since I have already
Yeah.
basically described this on that episode. Do you want to describe Reborn as a vending machine, Coco?
This show, as Aarlon mentioned, is one that was briefly talked about in one of the previous seasons we did. And it was talking about how it's much better than the what is it? Is it just called Reborn as a Sword?
I don't know.
Sword Isekai.
Yeah.
The the one that we called Sonic and the Black Knight because it's a furry that uses a talking sword. uh and you know what? I have to say, from what I watched, well, I mean, this isn't my type of show to begin with, but I definitely didn't think it was bad. So basically, the show starts with the main character. He thought he was dead, but he wakes up as a vending machine because we see he like has a flashback, and he's like, oh, the funny thing about the flashback, he's like, oh no, that vending machine's about to fall off the truck, and then he like jumps to go and save it. And it turns out the reason why he does that is because he's like a vending machine fanatic, you know? He's like really into vending machines, that so much so that when he wakes up as a vending machine, for a brief moment he's like, oh man, I'm a vending machine. I fucking love this. My design is so cool and so good. And then he's like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be happy with this. This is like fucking weird. And there's like, I'm not entirely sure if this is what he actually says, but there's like a in the sub, but there's a scene where he's like, because apparently there's such a thing as a vending machine fandom. He's like, yeah, I'm not sure what it says about me or my fandom that I'm just like okay with being a vending machine. But yeah, one of the things I will say I actually kind of appreciate about this concept is that they actually like do something with it. It is like I was asking Aarlon before we recorded this if this would fall under system anime, because it does have a bit of a system thing going on, using the fact that he is a vending machine. And the way that it works is that he basically has to earn points to live, and to earn points, he has to sell items. Um, and like originally, the episode struggles with him not being able to like sell anything because he spawns like in the middle of fucking nowhere, and he loses so many points. But yeah,
And he gets attacked by goblins.
yeah, he gets attacked by macablins,
Hmm.
but they're green instead. Yeah, and then this girl comes and she like buys a bunch of stuff from him and is like, "Oh, this is like kind of neat. I'm gonna take it back and I'm gonna show it to this guy who, I mean, I've only seen the first episode, but I'm gonna show it to this guy who's like super into magic and science and technology and stuff, and see if he can figure this out. Oh, and like make him be able to like say more than like the standard like greetings, because he can't talk, uh, because he's a vending machine. So he only has like automated responses, because he literally can't talk. So the girl
He's
is
got
like,
pre-recorded phrases.
yeah. So like the girl is hoping that the person is able to make it so that they can actually communicate.
Like you said, what's so excellent about this one is, I mean, for one, it's like it's pretty obvious that this is just them being like, isekais are getting so stupid and ridiculous now. What if we just came up with like the stupidest concept we can think of?
Mm-hmm.
But then like they actually utilize the fact that he's a vending machine in interesting ways. Like it is a show about him having to sell stuff and use his vending machine related abilities to help them.
Like some level of thought was actually put into this.
Yeah. I think like I compared it to the sword isekai before, and it's a good comparison to make because obviously they're both ridiculous premises.
Mm-hmm.
But like even like this season, we have something like Sweet Reincarnation, which is about like a baker getting reincarnated, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do baking related stuff in this isekai." And then you know what he does? It's just another isekai about him like navigating like politics with the nobles and like fighting bandits or whatever and learning
Damn.
magic. There has been like he's made probably like 3 desserts in the
Mhm.
whole series so far in like the 8 episodes that are out.
That sounds like a case of like the plot, the premise sounds like it should be a slice of life in a fantasy world type deal. Because there's some shows like that. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
the medicine one was like that. I'm not sure. Uh,
Mm,
but
the medicine one the medicine one was better than it about that than this one was,
yeah,
but it also kind of fell into just being another isekai.
it sounds like the writer struggled a bit with making it, or he just wasn't interested to begin with making it a slice of life fantasy show about baking.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I found this mostly boring, to be quite honest. I
Mm.
I I guess I haven't seen a lot of isekai, so maybe that's also the thing. But like um, the kind of like boring thing I found about this is that like it's way too like straightforward in the way that like the plot progresses, I guess. Because it honestly just feels like it's like the premise of like, okay, what if there came in a vending machine in an isekai world, and that's it. Like we just see this guy doing like yeah, like leveling up his like vending machine stuff, and then he gets brought to a village where he sells more stuff. Like it feels kind of like developing the situation in like the most like straightforward like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens kind of like series of events.
And
I
so
yeah.
I think that kind of goes back to a lot of like what I've been talking about in my manhwa videos. Find me on TikTok now. Uh, where like the appeal of like leveling manhwa, and I think the same goes for isekai to an extent because I think isekai also tend to be pretty straightforward, is very different from a normal piece of storytelling because I feel like the narrative tends to come a little bit second, more to just like the catharsis you'd get out of like grinding in a video game or something. That it's just like satisfying to watch the character progress and get these upgrades and stuff.
I don't know, I feel it's like kind of like, how do you say, like, I mean, sure, you can watch that and you can like that. For me anyway, that's kind of like undermines a lot of what like a narrative can do. Like I said jokingly in like the because like, yeah, like, I said jokingly in the podcast chat like, oh yeah, I really wish that like this show was about like, or this like vending machine introducing rapid consumerism into like this like isekai world. um because like, yeah, there's like a certain like he's like going around and he's like giving everyone like chips and shit, and everyone's like buying constantly like snacks and stuff from him, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is so great!" And like it just kind of like play it off as a, like, "Oh yeah, because vending machines are so great because it's a show about vending machines. We're really positive about them, and we love vending machines." But like, yeah, I just kind of like miss some kind of like twist or like conflict going on where like it like makes it interesting on like, yeah, like kind of like any level, because this is just kind of
Uh,
like for the most part just kind of like, yeah, he's a vending machine now and he's able to like upgrade these abilities, and then he upgrades these abilities, and then someone finds him and takes him to a city, and then he upgrades his abilities more, and then he's like there's no like other like thematic stuff you're like missing from that description. That's pretty much what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, but like he does, it's not like there's no stakes or anything. Like he does have to
yeah, because
overcome obstacles and stuff.
he
I
will literally
sort of,
die if he doesn't sell these things.
sure, like, well, what? Yeah, I mean, I guess there's like conflict overcoming, but like he doesn't have a lot of issues overcoming them, if that makes sense. Like
There's like
he's
the
being.
guy that tries to steal him. There's the time they fight the dragon and
I
have
mean,
to take it down with
I just watched this
Mentos.
episode, right?
I
Like in the
only watched the
beginning,
first episode.
he
Okay.
gets
Yeah.
like in the beginning he gets like attacked by like the frog people or whatever, uh, and then he figures out that he can create a shield, and then that's that issue like solved. And like
Well, it's
that,
not solved though because the shield is like sucking up points. So he's going to die even faster now if he doesn't find a way to get points. That's just like a
uh,
temporary solution.
sure, but like that scene there, I feel is mostly there to like kind of showcase like, oh, this is how he's gonna defend himself against stuff. Like there's no like interesting like problem solving he's doing or whatever, or like that he has to like overcome something or like learn something to like solve this issue. It's like, oh, I have to apply this thing in my menu.
I imagine that stuff that would come up as the show progresses, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen
I
it.
don't
No, I
I
mean, like I said, he does have to, like, I don't know, spoilers, because this is an excellent moment in like the third episode, but they're being attacked by a dragon at one point, and like they're gonna die. So he has to turn into a Mentos dispenser and then a soda dispenser. And then he has to find a way to communicate them, to put the Mentos in the sodas so they can put out the flames of the dragon. I just feel like
That does
that's
sound
not
pretty funny.
something you can get in an ordinary story. You need to be in the vending machine
I
isekai to
mean,
get
you
something
probably
like that.
can. You probably can.
You think you can get someone having to sell Mentos and soda and then use pre-recorded phrases to tell them the
I mean,
medieval
depends what you
people
mean
that
with like the specific thing. Like, sure, you
Maybe if
can.
the person is cursed to only be able to say like 5 sentences, and
I
they
mean,
just and they just
episode.
happen to and they
You have
just
one.
happen to have soda and Mentos on them,
I
you
mean, you have
know.
one episode in JoJo Part 5 where like the guy has to like communicate with his friend is being attacked by like a superpower, and the superpower is makes him like only tell lies. Like that's kind of like a thing where like he has to like
sure,
overcome a
sure.
communication like
But I'm just
barrier.
saying, like, don't you get a sense of whimsy out of getting to watch a vending machine man have to use his vending machine powers to accomplish things?
Not in the way that it played out in this episode. No, like I get there's like an interest or there's like a particular like there's like an interest in like the premise of like the vending machine stuff. And I can see that like being interesting enough, but like it didn't do much interesting with it. It's just like him like kind of like what I said, like going to situation by just like kind of like doing the most obvious thing.
I think the
And
thing
that's
there
it.
is that it's the first episode, which really only exists to establish the fact that like this is the premise, and all that stuff probably happens because this is part of the reason why when it comes to this is part of the reason why when it comes to these seasonal podcasts we do, I like waiting until at least 3 episodes are out because I feel like you're not necessarily getting everything that the show is going to be out of just the first episode. And I don't know if that's just a
Yeah.
problem with like shit pacing on the part of the people who made the show. So I guess it can be because you know it results in a a lot of shows having a very weak start. But yeah.
Oh, on one side, I can agree with what you're saying. And maybe that's something we could maybe do like next time or whatever. If there's another podcast, where we watch like multiple episodes, because I did get that sense a little bit by watching these. But on the other, I think that like at least in the very first episode, they could have definitely made it more interesting. Like
Hmm.
he goes through multiple situations. Like it's not like the episode moves slowly because they have to establish like a lot of like super like important stuff that they just have to go through for they just have to go through. Like he develop the situation develops like multiple times throughout the episodes. Where it's like he turns to a vending machine, he has to defend himself, he gets found and brought to the village, and then he has to like sell stuff to the village, and then he meets another bunch of characters where it feels like okay, like at this I do think that in the first episode they could have made it more interesting at the very least than just like this kind of like straight up like, oh, then this happens and then this happens.
I mean, I guess. I still liked it though.
Although I do want to mention that what is it? Oh yeah, I know that when because Aarlon was the one who was looking forward to this show the most, and I know that when the poster for this first came out, Aarlon, you were sort of
Oh my
annoyed
god.
at the
I
idea.
saw those freaking eyes and I was seething.
Yeah, you were
How could they do that?
you were
It
sort of
was
yeah. Go on, go on.
It's because I read the manga, and one of the things I loved about the manga that I felt like made it so much funnier is just the fact that he is literally just a vending machine. And they also, I feel like the way they draw it like really captures the scale of him, that he's just like a big ass vending machine sitting there,
Yeah.
and it's just a vending machine. So when I saw like, oh no, they're gonna like cheapify him, like I see now that I'm looking at it, it's not just that he has eyes. He's also like curving a little bit. Like he can like bounce around or something, to
Oh
emote.
no. It's like what they did with the fucking Thomas train. Anyway, uh, but yeah, no, I was gonna say, this was like not too long after we had just watched Cursed Show Inukai-san's Dog. And I mentioned to Arlon that in that show, they show him with human eyes when he's looking at himself from his own perspective, and when it's from other people's perspective, he has regular dog eyes. And they basically do something similar here, where when he's having like an internal monologue, you see his eyes, but when it's from the perspective of other characters, he's just a regular ass vending machine.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing,
And
would you have preferred if they just didn't have the eyes, period, and it was just a regular vending machine all the time?
That will be
well,
funnier.
kind of, but I am actually willing to forgive them for it because you were right, and like it really wasn't that offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely get why they did it, because in an anime, like when you're just like having panning shots of a character sitting there as they're like having an inner monologue, which
Mm-hmm.
does happen a lot
Yeah, that
in
happens a
this show,
lot.
because he's thinking about how he's a vending machine and like what his course of action should be here.
Yeah, like the first like 5 minutes is him just by himself in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I
So
actually
having
I think I would have enjoyed it more if it didn't have eyes. Just to see like a bunch of dry like shots of just like a vending machine. I don't know. I think that would be funny actually.
It would have been very interesting to see how they communicate what he's feeling without giving him a face.
I
Like
mean,
they would,
you probably could do that with like editing and stuff, but it'd probably take too much effort for them. They don't got the
yeah,
budget for that.
yeah.
it would have forced them to like come up with all these creative ways to like make an inanimate object that has no face whatsoever to like communicate like his emotions. But yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
what was Arlon?
But no, yeah, I was definitely really worried going into the show uh, that it would be a disappointing adaptation, and
Mhm.
it wasn't. It was nowhere near as bad as I was worried it was going to be. Like
Hmm.
it's a very pleasant looking show, and
Yeah,
the eyes
it's alright.
work. It's fine.
Oh,
But I
wait.
will say,
Yeah.
uh, I do feel like there's just something lost in the transition to anime here, that like I can't even really put my finger on it, but I feel like it just feels a little
Did
bit.
you read the light novel or the manga?
No, I've read the manga.
Was
I
that
don't know if this
scene
has a
with
light
him like
novel.
trying to save like the vending machine and then dying? Was that like longer in the manga?
Wait,
What
which
scene?
The
scene?
the, the like scene where he tries to save like the vending machine and then he dies.
Oh, no, that's like literally one page.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, that's kind of disappointing. Okay. Just want to know that.
No, I mean because
oh, go on.
it's a gag manga, so like the pacing in I feel like in comedy mangas always tends to be a lot faster than in the adaptations.
Yeah, because you
sure,
can definitely feel it is a bit slow in the anime for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's I just kind of found it disappointing because I really like that's like a funny idea. I think if the guy's like super like into vending machine and then he gets reincarnated, like I think that's like an or like funny idea. But
Okay.
they like it's like one like really short scene that like spent to it, and I was thinking like, oh, this probably is like it's also kind of like weirdly paced. So I was like, oh, probably in like the original, like at least like in my light novel then. But I would assume it would also be like in the manga, which also has like less like time constraints. There was
So
like there was like more time spent on it, but
so as I do with every seasonal, I always come up with at least one crackpot theory. So here's this season's theory. This isn't even a thing that I do intentionally, but fuck it. Since it's a thing I've done like 3 times now, here we are. My theory is that when he died, he fused with the vending machine that he tried to save. Because it looks exactly the same as the vending machine that he is when he's isekai'd.
the budget
That's my
only had there was only enough
that's
budget for one
Interesting.
vending machine design. That's probably why.
that's my crackpot theory for this season. Oh yeah, but I had another question because Aarlon, I think when you were watching it before, didn't you mention that it's like it sort of like breezes through or like skips certain parts that are in the manga? Is that? I feel like
Yeah,
that's a thing you might have said at one point.
I got that
No,
feeling too.
I might have complained about like I felt like one of the things I love in this is the vending machine's romance between him and the main girl because it's extremely funny.
Yeah,
But they have like this really nice shot of like them like her like sleeping on the vending machine and it like hands up to like the like starry sky. And I felt like that wasn't nearly as impressive in the anime.
yeah. Because I just remember like at one point, I think we were in like voice chat and you were talking about the show, and maybe I'm confusing it with another show, but I remember you mentioning that it felt like in some of the like in you would go from one episode to the next and it like skipped a lot of content that's in the manga, but
No, I checked. I might have said that, but I checked back and I don't think it was.
oh okay.
But what I will say is that it moved way faster than I was expecting. Because in the 3 episodes that I watched, it's already ahead of where I was in the manga when I caught
Ah,
up.
I see. Oh, that explains it.
Which is also why I haven't watched more, because I think I'm just going to read the manga since I preferred it.
Yeah. Oh, on that note, wait, unless you guys had anything else to say about the show.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
On that note, I just wanted to
I
say
give it
that
like a 5.
the director of this show, well, there's 2 directors. There's main director and assistant director. The director for the show, the main one, his name is Noriaki Akitaya, and he he worked on Fate Stay Night, but he also worked he also worked on like a few classics. Like he worked on like Familiar of Zero and Code Geass, Code Gay Ass, and Bakuman, and he also worked in Inuyasha. So I mean, I guess that explains why the show doesn't look like terrible, but you know. But then the assistant director also worked on another show that we covered in the past. Oh, his name is Masayuki Takahashi. He worked on My Stepsister Is My Ex. Or
Let's
uh
fucking go.
We talked about that one.
oh yeah, and he also did some storyboarding and episode directing on Black Clover.
Yeah.
So yeah.
A not particularly good adaptation.
Yeah. Oh, but that's all I have to say about the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, overall this doesn't really seem like my type of show, but I didn't hate it.
It's
Fair
not
enough.
like I hate it necessarily, but just kind of really boring.
Hmm.
I mean, I know like isekai are not for everyone.
Yeah.
Personally, I just can't get enough for whatever reason. They just something about them scratches an itch for me,
Bruh Bobby.
and and I tend to watch several every season.
Well,
We
you
got
know what?
some good ones too this season.
I
So.
say Bruh Bobby, but I realized a couple seasons ago, or was this last season, that you can get me to watch an isekai if you make the isekai just basically porn.
Bruh.
Bruh. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's one of the upgrades you will later get as a vending machine. I don't know. I haven't seen the show.
He'll get a
You know what's insane?
vending machine penis.
What's insane is that you're not even
Oh,
totally
no.
wrong.
No. No, 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 no.
He
Well,
gets
I mean,
he gets like condoms and
Oh
some
my
other like lewd
god.
related
oh wow,
vending machine functions.
that's actually great for this society because I imagine since this is meant to be sort of like an something hundreds society, like fantasy stories often are, contraceptives probably aren't a thing in this society, so they need that.
No,
No more
they
unwanted
had
kids.
contraceptives.
Oh, they
They
do.
had yeah, in the
They had
olden
Tito.
days they used like bowels or something. They like
I don't
took out
think
like
they use those
sheep
much.
and they took out like sheep intestines or something and like
What the fuck?
I yeah, I don't know, I can look it up, I guess.
Isn't
No.
like the main way they like did birth control there is just cause like a like miscarriages when someone got pregnant.
How the fuck do you induce
Probably,
that
yeah.
before
There's
like the medicine to do that exists?
because you can just like I think there are like teas and stuff that like could do that. Like in the
Yeah, I mean,
Bible,
medicine existed back then. It just wasn't near. We just didn't have science to figure it out. It
I
was kind of just
see.
like word of mouth.
because like the Bible has like the Bible mentions abortion, but it's only in the context on how to cause one, like as like a point of reference here.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Um, but it's not like nice miscarriage, getting a miscarriage probably.
Oh, here you go. The
Yeah.
condoms used in ancient Rome were made of linen and animal, sheep and goat, intestine or bladder.
But
Put
where
that
there's
wi-
like
put that paragraph on screen as you read it.
Will do. The next show is some Japanese text. The girl I like forgot her glasses. One of
Oh, this is a
the
classic,
funniest
an
and
absolute classic.
greatest shows. One of this will go down in animation history as one of the most ambitious animation projects.
If anyone is familiar with like room shakers or like hand shakers,
I was about to say, I was like watching this. I was like, is this the handshakers people? Why are everything moving around?
yeah, it is. It is the same people who did Handshakers. This show was
This
made by Studio
I
Go
knew
Hands.
it. I could smell it.
Yeah. They have a very distinct like fucking around with the camera angle and
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so fucking good.
but
Is
it's
it
so
good?
it's so well, I mean, I think he's being like good in a bad way. But like
There's a part at the beginning, they show him walking on the grass, and they literally just have like a PNG, like a JPEG image
Oh
of
of a
yeah.
grass.
grass
It's
texture.
I
it's
don't.
really
It's so weird. The backgrounds in this the backgrounds in this fucking show are so weird. It's like they're standing in fucking 3D Unity like models.
yeah, that's
It's
the thing.
such a
Like
weird
this,
vibe.
when I look at this game, let's see, I was literally about to call it a game. When I look at this anime and you look at like the fucking like when it's just like a panning shot of like the classroom or whatever, I can't be the only one who like it feels like I'm looking at like gameplay footage of like Persona
Yeah.
5. Like it reminds me of
It's
Persona 5 when you're like in school and all your classmates are just there and
one
It's
thing.
uh,
so
Yeah.
they like the way they open this episode is it's just like showing him like going into school, and the way like he's walking down the hall
and
and
up
it's
the
like we get
stairs.
like an ant's eye view
I was
from
about
like
to
next
say,
to his foot.
yeah, and I was like, bro, I'm about to get fucking stepped on. What is this?
And then it like the camera keeps like turning around when he like and it zooms in on his hand when he's walking up the stairs. That was like the scene that they put out in the like trailer, and it's like God. I didn't even know that Studio Gohans was a thing before this show, but I was like, this reminds me of fucking Room Shakers. And then
Yeah.
someone was like, fucking man, stay off of Goat Shakers. And I was like, oh, okay. I get, I get.
I just I just don't really understand what like the point is of all that like animation. Like sure, they're moving around a lot and it's a lot of like because like what they're doing seems pretty hard, especially with all the like perspective stuff that I constantly like need to change. But like
I
it
think
just doesn't look good because it's just like moving around for the sake of moving around.
it seems like this might be a studio that has quite a bit of money behind it. Cause
You have to
one thing
have
I will
shakers.
one of the things I will say is that like it's really weird because I feel like when you get past like the weird camera angles and like the use of realistic textures in some of the environments. There's another show we'll talk about later, but not going to that now. I feel like I feel like this studio has the potential to be good, but they just do too much, and it makes their shows look terrible. So
No, I'm telling you though, like what it feels like to me is like if you got an anime to be directed by like a middle schooler.
yeah,
Right,
It's like,
really?
man, like I'm moving all over the place. We've got all these cool angles. Like this is gonna be so cinematic.
honestly, this is like this kind of reminds me of when like because I'm an artist, and it may this reminds me of like how I would draw certain panels after I discovered that like dynamic camera angles are like a thing you can do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very much like you know, they have like a thing that they really like and they're just gonna put it on
It's
everything
like
even if it doesn't make sense.
oh man, not every shot has to be like static. So then you get like
And they make
crazy with it and
everything
like
non-static.
hyper experimental and it's like
Uh,
so
and
are
like
we gonna talk about the plot at all? LOL.
and I wonder if
What?
like with like the backgrounds, I wonder whether they're going for like a Makoto Shinkai thing, where like the backgrounds are really like realistic,
Yeah, I
but it
get
just
that
doesn't
vibe.
look good. Like
Hmm.
I wonder what's like the process that happened here because otherwise I don't really understand the whole like PNG stuff they got going on.
Yeah.
There was a plot in this?
The bare bones plot. Uh the main character, I don't even know where to begin with this fucking it was so boring. It was so
Yeah,
this
once you get past the novelty of the ridiculous animation, you're just left with an incredibly boring anime.
it was so like I was in voice chat with Aarlon while I was watching this, and like I remember like I told him like I was getting really bored, and I looked at the time and I realized I was only something like I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes into like a 20-minute episode. And, and I
I
was just I was just like I have to fast because I don't typically do the like 2 point speed when like watching seasonals, and this was the first time where I was just like I need to fucking speed this up because this is fucking oh my god.
I had the exact same
I
experience.
actually didn't dislike it that much.
What? Elaborate.
I I don't know. Like, sure, it's not like a lot of like, sure, this is very like slice of life comedy, nothing burger anime. I agree with that.
Hmm.
But I think it like I don't know, like the main thing about this that like oh you know it's about like just like the cutesy love vibes about it all.
Hmm.
Which I think generally vibed with. Like, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't like watch this on my own necessarily. Um, but like I didn't mind this as much because just like okay, like at least like the gags were like cute, right?
Eh.
Guys? I guess like she
Well, like
looks
there's the
at
gags
his
about her
face really close.
like her being blind. There's this one scene where he asks how she feels about frogs. So
Yeah, because she found like a frog.
he takes the frog off her shoe without telling her because she says that she finds frogs like creepy and disgusting.
Yeah.
So then he's like, oh, well, here's your shoes back. And then she's just like, was there a frog on my shoe? Because
Yeah, or the
when she looked in the locker earlier, her vision is bad, obviously. So she thought those weren't her shoes because they're like, why are my shoes green? And it turns out the reason why they were green is that's like the only joke with like a setup and punchline that I can think of in
well,
that.
there's also the one with like the throwing the ball thing or like the gym thing where he's like, oh, I need to
Mhm.
protect her, and he gets all like worked up that she's behind her, and then he gets like thrown immediately, and he needs to like go off the game.
This guy gets like super
Yeah, it's a middle
excited.
schooler.
This guy gets super like there's I think he like borrows her shoes and wears them. And like his reaction when he puts them, I'm telling you, that guy had like the biggest cum when he put
Oh yeah,
those shoes.
that's I will say
He
like
had the biggest
it
cum when he
kind
put those shoes on.
of
I mean, I agree with you, Thick, that like I don't think I feel like it's taking something that like is kind of realistic with teenage boys and like when they like are near or close to their crush and sort of like exaggerating it because it's anime and exaggerating is what they do. But it also does make the main character come off as a bit of a weirdo.
I
But I
mean,
wouldn't
yeah,
say
no, that's what it's you reminded me
yeah,
like when I was watching this, I felt like I was getting like mega creep vibes from him. Like
really?
the way he's like every time like his hand brushes against his, he's like, I touched a girl. Like, I don't know. It's
well,
just too
Wait,
it's
this
too
I
is
was
weird.
because I mean, this is just like these are like middle schoolers, right? They're like 14 or whatever.
yeah, I
Like
was gonna say I was creeped out in a way where I was creeped out in a way where I sort of cringed at like remembering a time where I was like that when I was these characters' ages. Like
yeah,
obviously not as
because
exaggerated as it is in this anime, because again, it's an anime and they like exaggerate it. But I can
yeah,
recall moments where I got excited brushing up next to my crush or whatever.
yeah, exactly. Like it's just that's what I did in my image because like okay, he's clearly acting like a middle schooler, right? Like it's not
Hmm.
necessarily there's like maliciousness behind it, but he's just young and full of hormones, and he gets like easily excited by love because it's a new thing, and that's kind of like the
Yeah.
cutesy vibes that's like that like the entire show's about. Like, oh, he wants to protect her from the ball game, and he brushes up on his against his back, and he gets like so excited, he doesn't notice, and he gets like immediately hit by the ball. Like, yeah, like that kind of stuff. It's like
Yeah.
it's just because I know that like this like the guy's like thing, right? Like the author of this show, because he also made like Teasing Master, right?
Say that again.
There's that like that other manga Teasing Master whatever, where it's like two elementary school kids, and like the girl constantly teases like the guy. And that's also kind of like a cute like nothing burger
Hmm.
like romance, like oh
Yeah.
Wait, which one? I mean, there's a bajillion manga
wait no
like
let
that,
me
but
if I show it if I like send the thing you'll be like oh that one.
is it Nagatoro?
Yeah, that's what I thought when you said that too. I thought you meant
No,
Nagato.
it's not the look. That one is a bit creepy, but not
In-
this one.
What? I
Incidentally,
like
I thought
Nagatoro.
this whole
Nagatoro is
show
cute.
I thought this whole show was gonna be just like hilarious hijinks. Well, hilarious in massive air quotes. Centered around the fact that her eyesight is poor, and it was just gonna be like them bonding over
Uh,
I posted in the chat.
uh, him assisting her with like her having shit eyesight.
Yeah,
But
that's what happens, right?
I will say that my expectations were mildly subverted when the first episode ends with her getting contacts. So I
Yeah.
guess I guess it won't be centered around hilarious.
Yeah,
hijinks
we
about her
already
hiding.
have moved away from the premise of the
We're
show.
moving the
She has
progress
no
forward.
longer forgotten her glasses.
Yeah, because like the episode starts with her forgetting them, then midway through she breaks them. She says that I broke my glasses and that I've decided to just get contacts. So I don't know if this show is gonna still be like focusing on that, or if it's just gonna be like a regular like
I mean,
slice
we'll
of life rom
probably
com from now on.
yeah. Well, I mean, most of the show is probably just gonna be like, oh, they're in a situation and he's getting excited and like flustered about what's happening, and she isn't really aware of his feelings. She just does whatever she wants because he's kind of aloof and clumsy. Like that's, and then like that's like
Yeah.
gonna be every like scene or like whatever.
I don't know. It just feels like so. We get so many romance shows like this, and like so many of them are just a lot better than this. Like,
Are you talking about that format that I complained about a couple seasons ago, where it's boring guy has his life changed by a cute girl with some kind of gimmick going on?
yeah, like Homie Can't Communicate is like
Yeah,
pretty
or
And
like
dress up
close to
Aurora.
this
darling.
one.
Dress up darling.
Or like even the one I sent, DC Master, it's like the same thing where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
will they, won't they? And the girl is very like awfully teasing him.
Shikamori's not just a cutie.
Okay, Coco, though, you can't put Dress Up Darling in that category
All of them.
because Gojo is more interesting of a person than Marin is. Gojo is the goat.
Maybe. I've only seen like 5
He's just a beta cook.
episodes.
Yeah, I don't like. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this is like amazing. I would rate this higher than Vending Machine though. I would probably rate it less high than
You would rate
100.
Okay.
What?
That's crazy.
Why? Okay. Why is that crazy? Because I feel that this one is just so,
Mr.
yeah.
Thicc confirmed shit taste.
I mean, I will admit, okay, here's the thing. Like, if we're talking like in terms of like ironic enjoyment before I was bored to tears like 10 minutes in, I mean, yeah, I probably did get somewhat more enjoyment out of this than Vending Machine, but I feel like I could finish Vending Machine, whereas I don't think I could finish this.
Yeah, I'd give the first 5 minutes of this a 10, and then the
Really?
rest of it is like a 3.
In terms of ironic enjoyment.
Yeah.
I just feel that like this show is like I don't know, it's just very like more like focused with what's going at. It's a cute rom-com show about seeing a flustered middle schooler being like flustered being around his crush, and that's like the thing. And I can like get behind that more than like watching the Vending Machine anime where it's just like seeing how he like does vending machine stuff in an isekai world. Like, I don't know. I think I prefer this more. But also to be clear, I will probably rate this lower than 100.
That's good. That would be really worrying.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I can like appreciate the rom-com vibes or whatever.
We'd have to send you to anime rehabilitation
At the very least, you can't say this is more boring than Vending Machine.
All right, next show.
I don't know.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm actually looking at my notes here, and the person who directed this show is one of the directors on one of the shows we're going to be talking about.
Oh,
his name is Susumi Kudo, and he also worked on the Fatal Fury anime, which is interesting.
let's go.
I only know Fatal Fury because of that one the girl who wears red and she has the jiggly boobas.
Of course you would know about that. Last thing I want to say is that the ugly ass animation does make it a bit more interesting to view, at the very least.
He also
That's fair.
did some work on Ghost in the Shell Arise, which is very interesting.
It's the one no one cares about.
And I'm just like, wait, why? I mean, every time I see that pop up, whenever I look at the credits, I'm just sort of baffled at the fact that Ghost in the Shell is still going. It's like one of the most milked anime franchises of all time, but that's beside the point. on the subject of the directing, not a fan. I feel like they tried to do some like fancy stuff. Like there's this one scene where he's like the main character's remarking on how close they've gotten, and then it just cuts to like this random shot of like them sitting on their desks and they're like flying through a forest. And I just thought it was very random. Like it seemed like a director's attempt at trying to do something fancy and communicate something,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand what point they were trying to get across with that. I didn't understand.
Yeah, there was like a similar shot at the beginning where he's like thinking about how he likes her, and then he's suddenly like a huge, like sweeping shot through doves around him. It's all like pink,
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, okay, sure. There's a lot of movement and stuff happening here to showcase that he feels a way about her, but
mhm.
kind of extra for no reason, like all of the animation in the show.
Yeah, one instance of the animation being extra is like the scene where like she's leaving the school and he's watching her leave, and she literally turns Super Saiyan 3 because her hair gets like insanely long and it's like flowing all over the place. And I don't know.
Do you guys at least agree that the show at least like captures the feeling of like middle school situation well?
I mean, I definitely think it somewhat accurately captures the awkwardness of what it's like to have a crush, kind
Well,
of a
not just
little
like
bit.
the awkward, also just like appreciating them, I guess.
I mean, I was never this friendly with my crush in high school, so I
Yeah.
guess not for me.
I
No.
guess me neither. But like again, I like fully understand the like. I mean, again, do you guys agree that this sort of like catches the feeling well?
A little bit, yeah.
I guess. It's like a little bit nostalgic, I guess. But
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
all right. Next anime is My Happy Marriage. Do you want to talk about the plot of this one, Mr. Thicc?
Wait, which one is this?
My Happy Marriage.
D-
You've got your name on it.
Have I? Which one is this? Is this the one with the cooked lady from the 1920s?
Yeah, that sounds right. It's
Oh,
like
okay,
a
okay.
very
Yeah.
traditional Japanese
Yeah.
household.
Okay, I was because I know there was also one about like the lolly wife or whatever. I was kind of confused. Okay.
Yeah,
Um.
not that one.
Yeah, I know. I thought this was interesting because instead of like wish fulfillment anime, it was mostly like tragic porn. Um.
This isn't wish fulfillment anime for you?
I mean, it probably is eventually because it ends with her arriving at like most of the at her husband. But like most of this episode is just like, oh man, my life is kind of shitty, but I have one happy thing in my life. Oh no, the one happy thing I have in my life gets taken away. Now I feel even more sad.
Yeah. I mean, like, so like the plot of this one is that it's like a very traditional Japanese household, and she's like the oldest daughter, and the dad has like remarried and had a second child, and they just shit all over
Yeah,
her. And she like has like one guy who's like nice to her and
yeah, one
clearly has a
person.
thing for her. And then their parents marry off that guy and her bitch
Yeah,
younger
to his bitch
sister.
sister who just like looks down on her completely because she's spoiled.
Yeah, her stepmom and half sister are just massive assholes to her.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's just like all of those shows where it's like, oh, watch this person be miserable.
But then she gets married off to some guy who is rumored to be extremely cold and mean and chased off his previous
What?
fiancés or
Yeah.
whatever. And I mean, it's pretty the show is called My Happy Marriage, so obviously like
Yeah.
she's gonna meet him and he's gonna be nice. But all we
Exactly.
know from the first
They're
episode is that
gonna
he's
be
hot.
happy. It's gonna be a marriage, and it's gonna be hers. My happy
It's
Yeah.
marriage.
it's gonna be like, oh no, I've known no value in my life. Now there's this guy who's kind of rough around the edges, but he learns me self respect and how to value myself. And it's probably gonna be
Yeah.
some shit like that. Yeah. What do you think of it, Aarlon?
I mean, I liked it. I'm always here for, the catharsis of having like I'm sure like the stepmom and the half sister are going to like get their comeuppance. They're gonna probably the sister's gonna be very unhappy in her marriage
Yeah,
and she's
I was
gonna be
thinking
like
that too,
super
actually.
jelly.
Yeah, they're gonna like after so many episodes, they're gonna meet again. It's like, what? You're happy now? It's like, yeah, and you're unhappy with your husband that doesn't actually love you. He's gonna seethe. It's gonna be so great.
Yeah.
This sounds like some Cinderella shit.
Yeah, no, that's
It
what I was
is.
thinking like through the whole episode is this is like so Cinderella core.
Yeah.
I would actually describe this as the same issue I had with Zone 100, where it's like just like super one-toned, like cartoonishly, like like nothing
Yeah.
goes right in her life. Everyone's a dick around there. There's one person who isn't a dick, and then he's forced to be like, to marry her like bitch sister. Yeah, I don't know. I thought I liked it mostly because it was like something different from all the other stuff I watched.
I did like that there was like maybe a hint of something more, a hint of a little bit of nuance when we got like the flashback to when the mom died and stuff. Like clearly the dad was like remorseful and does care about her, but
Sort of.
yeah, but then also like I mean like he wasn't really the aggressor, but he was definitely like letting the bullying happen.
And then later he like lets the whole tree be like chopped down. It was like her one memory of her dead mom.
Yeah.
It's so like yeah, I know this is just so like extra and just like okay, we get it. Her life sucks. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't mind over the top.
Look, some 100. That's for the guys. This one's for the gals. Okay, that's my
True.
takeaway. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd give it like a strong 6, probably.
I would give it like a 5 or a 6. I don't know. Where would I rank this? I would rank it above vending machine. I don't know, maybe like equal at like Girl with Glasses.
Oh man.
Which is like either good
That's
as yeah.
crazy.
I guess maybe a slightly more.
Okay.
If it makes you guys feel happy.
Well, is that all we have to say about this one?
Yeah, I know. It just kind of and the whole presentation is super like low key, like it's like very grounded, like historical drama stuff.
Yeah. And I mean it definitely looked nice, but
It looks okay. Like this feels like a show that you could make into live action, and like probably nothing will be lost. At least from what I've
yeah,
seen
I
from this
agree.
episode.
Next up is Liar Liar. Do you want to talk about this one, Coco, or should I?
This show takes place in a place called Academy Island. It takes place in a place called Academy Island, and the main character has just arrived there, and well, we don't learn this until like the end of the first episode, but he's looking for someone, and he comes across this girl whose name I do not remember because I don't remember the names of the characters when I watch these, and the show starts off with one of the best tropes in anime, a misunderstanding that that
Mm.
that leads to them getting, well, not, it's not a fight, but it's a battle of sorts, and it's here where we learn that the show, well, okay, so there's this system where like the students are ranked and they play all these games, and like the
Oh
one,
my god, there's so much exposition in this.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like the first like 10 minutes of this show, I swear, is just like,
well, like the main character is like really the main character doesn't know anything.
yeah, he doesn't
Uh,
know shit.
so
He
they're like
just
explaining
came to the
how,
school without looking up a single thing.
yeah, so they're like
He doesn't know
explaining
how
his.
to use a
At
smartphone.
first, you think like, oh, he's like pretending. He's like pretending.
Well,
It's like some
that's
kind
what
of
I
like plot thing
that's what
going on here, but no.
that's what I thought was going to happen, because like the girl, the reason why there's a misunderstanding is because the girl gets mad at him because she gets sprinkled by water,
Yeah,
and
he's so
That's
stupid that
that.
it's like not believable that he actually just is that stupid. So when he leads her in directly into the line of fire of these sprinklers, and then she gets hit and made a fool of, it's like, well, what else could it be other than 5D chess?
yeah, she like assumes
Yeah.
there's ulterior motives, and he's like trying to like beat her in a game or something. And yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna say it. This show is literally Asterisk War. The only difference is instead of fighting to get a higher rank, you participate in the games. The plot of the first episode is the exact same as the plot of the first episode of Asterisk War. The main character, uh, meets the girl. They get into a fight because of a misunderstanding. He claims her rank as the strongest student because of the misunderstanding. The setting is even the same because uh, in Asterisk War, it's also like an island of schools with multiple
Does
districts.
he in Asterisk War? Does he also win by like having the bra show of the other girl? I think that's a pretty important plot point.
No, but they get into a fight because he saw her in her
Oh,
underwear.
it's reversed.
Nice.
Oh man, that's some deep
Yeah.
shit. Go on.
So yeah, like, and did I say that he becomes the strongest or the
Mm.
highest ranked
Yeah.
student by
Okay,
beating her?
I will say, Coco, I think you're being really unfair to Liar Liar here
Mm.
because I feel like the really like fun hook of Liar Liar is that the main character is just some dumbass and like
Yeah.
she's like the top ranked. So like throughout this battle, which we've already established, he knows nothing. He just kind of came to this prestigious institution. I guess he just was like, that'll work out. And like throughout this battle, she's like, all right, like pick your stat modifiers or whatever. And he's like, oh, I guess I won't do that.
I mean,
I'll just do whatever.
I definitely wouldn't deny that I think this is better than Asterisk War, especially because of the fact that it's more creative. Like it's like I said before, it's
Yeah.
not just fights. Like it's games that the students themselves choose to play. And I think the first game they play is like a staring contest or something.
It's like they're not supposed to like show emotion on
Yeah,
their
Yeah.
it's like
face,
a
and then
don't
the guy
react
clearly
challenge.
shows emotion on his face multiple times, but it only counts when the
Yeah,
lady
I
gets
know
sprayed.
that's so
It
dumb.
I
is.
mean,
So you have one thing. You only have one thing to do.
yeah. And for a brief moment there, I was like, "Oh God!" So it is just gonna be just fighting when she like pulls out her sword, but it's not. It's not quite.
I super didn't enjoy the fact that like he's just like a guy
Hmm.
because like all the shit just gets resolved by just like chance, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
it just happens that the fucking sprayer hit the lady 2 times in a row that made her think like, oh, and then he gets like the super special rank or whatever because it's just what other people decide over him, and then the lady decides to
Yeah,
tell
the
him
red
because
star.
he assumes some shit. It's not true because he's just a guy.
The red star gives you the ability to be able to tell a lie, um, convincingly, I guess. And the girl had the red star ability because, as it turns out, spoilers, as it turns out, at the end of the first episode, she is
Spoilers.
not who she says she is.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
she is a body double of, I can't remember, is the person like a princess or something? I don't know.
Like
Someone of
some
She was
important
like
significance.
person.
some like the most important
Yeah.
family or something, rich
Yeah.
Yeah,
family.
yeah, she's like, and it turns out that the actual person got kidnapped or something.
I like in this show called Liar Liar. No one really like lies. Like the guy is just a guy who's just not even realizing half the time what's going on. And then at the
Mhm.
end, the lady who was actually lying reveals everything, like the truth, like everything,
Well,
without much reason.
the reason why she revealed it all is because when you acquire the red star ability, liar liar, you learn every lie that's ever been told with it by the previous user. But the thing is, he didn't learn any of
Yeah.
her lies. She
I
just
mean,
thought he did, which
yeah.
was pretty
I
funny.
understand there's a reason for it, but it's just like it's kind of stupid. In a show called Liar Liar, and it seems
Yeah.
to like base its premise on like, oh, it's gonna be about characters deceiving each other. All the characters are pretty frank to each other, all things considered.
Well, I assumed it was gonna be like, I guess this is still what it's gonna be. Is like it's all about like fake it till you make it. Like it's gonna be him like trying to make his way through somehow, find a way to beat all these challenges as he like kind of fakes it till he makes
See,
it.
that's
So
that's where
As the
the
yeah,
that's where
imposter.
but
the
like,
show that's where the show lost me a little bit because I assumed that this show was gonna be about deception and kind of like what you said, like finding all these,
yeah,
kind of like Marshall in a way, where like Marshall has to find a way to
Yeah,
like get through
yeah.
all these challenges because he
yeah,
doesn't have
exactly,
magic, so he has to make everything look like he is using magic. But
yeah,
no,
Yeah.
instead, what happens is, I guess because he's a high-ranking student, he gets like a maid, and also one of the teachers is like backing him too, and they like
yeah,
use technology to cheat, which isn't as
Oh,
satisfying or creative as I thought it was going to
I
be.
yeah, exactly.
I don't
So,
remember that. Did you like watch the second
yeah, I
episode?
watched
Was
the
that in
second
the
episode.
first?
That was in the second
Wow,
episode.
that's so lame. Oh my
That's
god.
so stupid. Because
Yeah.
I was expecting like my reference was like what's the anime called? Kakurugi, where it's like the gambling anime with the ladies who get like super horny when they
Oh
gamble.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I
I
was
remember that one.
expecting something like that because I think that anime is like not that great either. But I was expecting some stuff like, oh okay, they're gonna be like pulling fast ones on each other. But like
Hmm.
no, it's just everyone's kind of just stupid in this anime.
Yeah, it's basically just them cheating and not in creative ways.
It's
That's
So,
lame.
yeah, they're not even cheating really. Like the one character is just stupid and like, oh, I don't know what's going on. He just happened to win by pure luck. And then the other lady comes up to him like, oh, and it tells everything because she's just stupid and doesn't realize what's actually going on. And then
hmm
like he gets like the superpower just because the school is just like, oh, we have a situation here that we're gonna resolve for you. Have fun. Like, yeah, no good, no good.
So earlier I mentioned that he has a maid. I was just quickly going through my notes, and this is something that tripped me up so fucking hard. Because his maid is another student of the school. Like,
What?
what the fuck? Why
Face,
why why are they
face.
tasking another student of, like, you'd think it would be like faculty or staff or something, but no, it's another
It wouldn't be a cute girl, and he needs his cute girl mate. Okay, that's the reason why.
it's another why is another student expected to be the maid of,
Because he needs a
bruh.
cute girl mate.
I guess so. I guess so.
Yeah.
What were
But
you
Uh,
gonna
I'll
say,
be
Aarlon?
honest, like I didn't really have a problem with uh most of the contents of the first episode. Like now that you're telling me about the second, that's super lame. But my main issue with the first episode was just that they have these giant ass exposition dumps. They have the giant ass exposition dump where she's telling him how to use a smartphone.
Yeah.
And she like in detail is like, this is where like the menus are and you
yeah.
swipe.
Okay,
And then there's
here's
also like the rules to the game and stuff.
here's the thing with that, because
Oh, and
when
the principal explaining all the like star stuff too.
incidentally, that scene is where we learn about the main character's motivation for being at that school, which is also like Astra Score. He's there to find a friend, just like Ayato went to the school to find his sister. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I wow, it being kind of boring when a anime just explains like super royally all its stupid bullshit system it has that the characters have to adhere to.
Hmm.
Man, I wonder what other anime that we watch reminds me of that.
I was
Mm.
I was gonna say that the way they explain everything in this, for a second I was like, is this based on a game? Like, is this based on a mobile game? Because it felt like
No,
that. It felt
this is just anime bullshit, right? Where they have like it's like vending machine is literally like this too, or just like random bullshit.
it just reminds me of like, remember when we watched like Arc Knights and they're like explaining how to like set up your teams on your phone. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It fucking reminded me of that for a second there, but I don't think so. I think it's based on like a manga.
Yeah,
As
but it's
far as
this
like
is
the problem with like exposition dialogue and all that, I think this is just a consequence of it being an adaptation of a light novel. I'm not entirely sure if it
Yeah.
is, but I know that a lot of anime that are adapted from light novels tend to have that problem, like Sao.
I mean it's a general thing with anime now, right? They all want to have like kind of like gamey systems that the characters adhere to, and it's all like made in such a way that like characters get like
Hmm.
a sick power up, who can like do whatever they want or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like in terms of like exposition-y stuff, that's more like a relic of like a decade ago when like light novel adaptations were all the rage and stuff.
I mean,
Like
Yeah.
a lot of this are like I don't know, like this and vending machine feels like very much from the same crop.
It just reminds me of Sword Art Online, like you know the infamous like the fucking sitting in a cafe fucking talking about whatever the plot is. That's what it reminds me of, kind of.
Like
yeah.
yeah. No, I agree with that. I just think of like that's just kind of what anime now is, right? With all of these like kind of like middle of the
Uh,
road shows where it's just like, oh, here's a guy and he goes to a special location where there's special stuff going on. And he meets cute girls and there's a whole bunch of like systems going around where it's like, oh, you have
I feel
to.
I feel
There's
like
a
a lot of
rank.
shows are
Yeah,
more straight to the point than this. But I
I
don't know.
know.
Yeah, most like the whole like having a complicated system that you explain, I feel like is not really like an anime thing
Or at
these
least it's
days
like a
so
light novel
much.
thing, and most anime these days like
Yeah,
light
for
novel
sure.
adaptations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Watching seasonals on this, I feel like even when we don't enjoy shows, they tend to all have like pretty they tend to be pretty unique.
Hmm.
Usually it's just that it's like the girl I like forgot her glasses where
Yeah,
the pacing just isn't very good and it's kind of
Yeah.
boring to watch.
Hmm.
I mean, or I feel the biggest thing with the Girl of Ghost is the weirdest animation, where it's like, okay, this is not good, but it's interesting.
To really put in perspective my experience watching this show, I just want to point out that I was literally in the middle of watching the last season of Mob Psycho when I started this, so this was quite a downgrade. This was quite a downgrade for me.
that that's terrible.
Like holy shit. And that's not even to say that this show looks bad. I think it looks okay. Like the coloring and the art kind of reminds me of Girlfriend a little bit. Has similar vibes. If anyone
Yeah.
remembers that show.
No.
Oh, Girlfriend is a show that we talked about on
Oh,
the
okay.
podcast before. Um but yeah, and on the subject of the animation, this show was made by Studio Geek Toys, and the only show of notoriety that I could see, at least out of the ones I recognized, was Dead Mount Deathplay.
Hey, and that show is pretty well animated. So.
And the director is a guy called Naoki Matsura, who worked on Attack on Titan Final Season Part 2, and he's also a person who worked on Black Clover. So there you go.
Oh yeah. Last thing I want to say is that
The
we're
AOT,
gonna
the Attack on Titan is not showing in this. Sorry, go on.
uh, we're gonna be talking about like Helck soon, and Helck has a
Yeah.
bunch of like systems too. That's about. But at least there, the systems are like relevant, right? Like
Hmm.
the situations develop in a way where the characters kind of have to like adhere to them in like interesting ways, or there's like, oh, there's gonna be something like important about them.
Next is Reign of the Seven Spellblades.
Oh, this fucking show. The show. Why isn't this the main character of this show the main character of Liar Liar? Because he
Yeah,
fucking looks exactly like Ayato from Asterisk War. He
I
looks.
was no, but like in general too. Like this guy would fit way more in the setting of Liar Liar, where he's actually capable and stuff, and actually coming up with plans instead of like whatever the guy's doing in Liar Liar.
So I would say I would summarize this, but like now that I'm thinking about it, I can barely remember the plot. There's like
There is no plot. The first episode. Oh my god, the first episode is so fucking bad. The first episode, I swear to God, it's so bad. Okay, so the first episode starts with them, like all of them, like going to this school for the first time.
Walking through the
Uh,
garden.
yeah, and there's like I guess there's like a parade going on or something, and they have like these monsters showing up, and like the monsters go ramp. Okay, this opening part isn't necessarily why I'm pissed off. It's more like the second half of the episode, but the opening episode, chaos ensues, and like the monsters are like killing everyone, and they fight them and they stop them using magic, yada yada. Oh, and I guess there's like this samurai girl who like goes. I was gonna say Super Saiyan, but I guess it's more like Gear 5 because her hair's white. Um, and yeah, but the part that really pissed me off about this first episode is like the second half of the first episode is literally just the characters like giving their backstories and describing themselves for like literally
Yeah.
10 minutes. It's
And then,
so
and the best part
bad.
is that
Holy
like
shit.
because when the parade is happening, like one of the girls get like set up to like get killed by the troll
Mhm.
thing, and then like when they're sitting at the diner, she like brings it up like, "Wow, wasn't the kind of crazy? I almost got killed there." And then one of the characters goes like, "No, let's talk about that some other time. We're eating right now."
I just
it's so
I
good.
just can't believe that like I was thinking there's more natural ways you can like introduce your characters. Like you don't have to introduce them all at once. Just do it like over the course of the plot when it's relevant to like bring them
Yeah,
up.
it's
Don't
so
have them
weird.
fucking don't have them fucking sit at a table and fucking have a round table about who they are.
Because like already at the beginning, it's like they're walking through the garden and you get like a bunch of like zoom ins on them,
Yeah.
like showing them. It's like, and then it already feels like, okay, sure, I get these are the characters that the show is about, but why I don't care about like what's the deal? And then they're like immediately like they're already like a team, I guess, because they're fighting against like the troll thing.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's like skipping the part, but it makes you care about any of the characters.
Yeah, it doesn't develop
If-
them, it doesn't give them. They just decide
they're
that they
all
are now
so
friends.
friendly too.
They just decide that they are now all friends because they like teamed up on
yeah,
that one monster.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
yeah,
I mean, there's
They're
like
all so
some
nice.
there's some conflict within the group, I guess, because they're talking about like, oh yeah, we came to this island where these monsters are from, and we just like took over and imposed ourselves. And then there's one guy who's like defending it, and like, oh yeah, well they're nothing but monsters, and I guess it's meant to be like a slave plot, like
it's supposed
I
to
don't
just
know,
rip off the one plot line from Harry Potter where Hermione or whatever she's called, like decides to
Mhm.
Hermione.
like fight for like
Hermione.
Hermione. I don't fucking care, but I'm not fucking British. Where the fucking like
Right.
she like
Hey,
stands up for
I'm
like
I'm
house
the
elf rights.
British I'm the British one in this podcast, but I'm just saying that I'm not the one who's the most into Harry Potter here, so
Um,
I'm more of a Marshall fan myself.
actually bringing up Hermione, that girl with the brown hair actually kind of does look like her
She
a little
she's literally like Hermione. Like she isn't as ready or whatever, but she's still like the one who's like, oh no, we should care about the trolls. They're like being like human rights violated. And then she gets put in
I
front of
mean,
the
this
troll
is
and immediately wants to fucking kill her. Yeah.
So maybe we can assume that the person who wrote this is a fan.
Maybe.
No, there's
maybe,
definitely
bro,
Harry
that's
Potter
crazy.
inspiration.
Guy was just like,
Yeah.
damn, I want Harry Potter, but I want my fucking samurai waifu, bro. That's the one thing this fucking show misses.
I mean, that's like this is really weird because like Marshall is a show that I think is probably yeah, it's definitely inspired by Harry Potter and like
Marshall is a parody of
Yeah,
Harry
imagine
Potter. is the
parody.
thing.
imagine this show being like a follow-up to that. It's like holy fuck. God.
This just feels like it wants to be Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like also to like relate it back to like how the characters are introduced, like Vending Machine is unironically like better at this, right? Like the characters get like introduced one by one, and like
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
made relevant the like relationship they have with like the Vending Machine guy. But like yeah, here he's just like, oh, these are these characters, and you're gonna care about them because
They
that's what the
just
show is about. So get used to them.
they
I
just
don't
dump
even
it
care.
on you all at once. Also,
Yeah.
there's this weird thing going on with this show where like at first I was under the impression that this like was a show that like tonally would be compared to something like the very first season of SAO. So none of that Aincrad shit. So no fucking weird rape or none of that illicitization shit where people actually do get stabbed and you see them bleeding. But then there's just like a scene in like the first fight where like one of the trolls just like steps on a dog and like
Oh
it's just
yeah,
like
and the
a
dog
red
fucking
splat on the
explodes. Yeah.
yeah. And
Jesus.
I was like, what the fuck? I was not expecting that. Like
Yeah.
I was really caught by surprise because I was not expecting this show
That
to
dog just
be that
fucking
violent.
explodes. Yeah.
And then like during the scene, like the teacher is talking about like, hey, just so you know, you guys better be careful in this school because a lot of the students in this school don't graduate. A lot of them, in fact, end up literally dead. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why would anyone willingly come to this school? And then there's like a scene in the second episode where like the main characters are about to get into like a fight with like students who are like a higher grade than them and like those students are literally like they want to kill them. Like what the fuck is this school? Like what is going on? I don't
Based.
understand. I don't get it.
So I will say of this show that I think this is the first time like I've watched something and I've been like really interested to read the light novel.
Why?
Because I almost felt like I might enjoy the light novel
Why?
quite a
Like the
bit
light
more.
novel might do a better.
Why?
Well,
Well, you know,
a lot of
I
animes
like
do
Harry Potter.
bastardize. A lot of anime adaptations do bastardize light novels. I
Yeah,
think
but
like
like
I've
even like this is such a like a boring ass fucking show, right? Like this is just like Harry Potter, but like anime. Like
But I like Harry
just
Potter,
read
so
Harry
I
Potter
do want to.
again. Read fan fiction, anything.
But I've read. I mean I do those things, but you know,
Oh, okay,
sometimes
never mind.
you want to get something new, you know,
You want something
yeah.
dog
something
shit?
new
I
that's Harry
see.
Potter but anime.
It's no.
Yeah, based on the opening, I do get the feeling that this show is gonna try and do. I thought maybe it'd be an action show, but I think it might have some mystery elements to it, similar to Harry Potter. So,
Let's go.
I mean,
but
probably, but it's just dog shit. Like I don't know.
I feel like there is something like underneath all the very, don't get me wrong, very bad writing.
actually,
Underneath all of that.
on the subject of that, I feel like the way the character, like you mentioned, the light novel, I feel like the way the characters are introduced in this is kind of like what I was talking about with Liar Liar as well, where it probably would be less offensive if I was reading it in a
Yeah.
novel than watching it in an anime.
You're more willing to put up with that kind of thing in novels because they just do it more.
If
But
I'm no, if I'm if I'm reading a novel and this shit comes up, I'm gonna be pissed, and I'm not reading anything better. I don't. I no. It's
Mm,
just
but
such.
like
Yeah.
underneath all of the bad writing, like yesterday I was going through some anime to try and get clips for the podcast,
Yeah.
and I remembered this fight in the second episode
oh
being
yeah.
like really well animated,
Hmm.
and then I went back to get the clip, and I realized it was not actually well animated. And Coco said, well, that's because of the emotion behind the scene. And I actually agree with that like
What?
the scene I felt like in general the relationship between the main character and the samurai girl is like the most interesting component of this
Yeah,
show.
for sure.
Like,
It was
But is
actually
it?
the conflict. It was the conflict between those two characters in the second episode, especially that fight. That like the second episode is better than the first, without a doubt.
yeah, for sure.
Like, what? In what way becomes that relationship like interesting?
Well, it's just interesting. They literally want to kill each other.
Well, I don't. It's weird because like there's this thing
I haven't
being
seen the second episode, by the way.
there's this there's this weird thing being implied where I think the main character might have killed someone already. And
Yeah.
he's sort of like trying to hold this like killer instinct back because
He has a demon
And
inside of him, bro. Can't
full
let it come
full
out.
disclosure, I have a feeling this protagonist is gonna be yet another one of these protagonists who's like a little bit overpowered.
Yeah, he already
So like
is. He like solved the entire problem with like the troll on his own.
so
well,
like when
no, but they were. I think like he's more or less equally matched with the samurai
well
girl
yeah,
because
that's
they
what I
were
was
like
getting at
going
is
head to
that
head.
like
Yeah,
in
sure, but
that
she's like the oh, look at how beautiful this samurai Japanese maiden is. Oh,
that
look at how strong and capable. Like, I don't know.
But she's got a bit more to her than that.
with
In
the samurai
fairness.
girl, that's what I wanted to go into because with the samurai girl, she's like she's basically like his equal, yeah. And like there's this thing where like she wants to fight him again because that's like the most fun she's had in a fight in quite a
Yeah,
while. And
yeah,
like the main character's like, well not he's
They're
like
going to kill each other is the problem. If they go all out, like
yeah,
oh,
she's just cool with it. Like that's
yeah,
all she's known because she's
that's
a warrior.
and that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's
So like
interesting.
those two are equals. Those two are equals. She has some experience fighting. Like we see her with these scars on her body at one point towards the end of the second episode, I believe.
Like, don't get me wrong, I got very much the vibe from the beginning that like she and like the main character are supposed to be like the main couple or whatever, where like the guy is
Hmm.
super capable and then the lady is like super kind of like genki, like kind of aloof, but she's actually also really strong. It's just like a dark past of like the war and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah, like telling me like, oh, they're actually like so capable that they're only equal matches like against each other, but they can't go all out because then they will go, like, I don't know.
that's just my assumption based on what I've seen on the second episode. But I the reason why I get the assumption that it's definitely implied that this character comes from like a family of like strong people with like connections and stuff, for example. Because when he goes to
Hmm.
this school, like his brother like sent someone basically to spy on him and make sure he's like doing okay. So there's like a plug going on there.
The
Um
issue that I constantly have with all these animes, I think I also have it with like some 100s. It's just also like self-insert power fantasy to the point
mm,
where it's like it kind of ceases to be like interesting, right? Like, oh, this guy is so super cool and special, and then he meets this other girl who's also super cool and special. Like,
you know what? It's actually funny. It's actually funny that you say that. I was about to say I feel like this show is better than the likes of like Astor Score that do that because this character actually has like trauma of some kind, seemingly. So he's clearly like somewhat flawed and has like some kind of inner struggle. But then it suddenly dawned on me that like fucking Sword Art Online also did that too, like
yeah,
in Sword Art Online season two. So I mean Gun Gale Online, not season two. But
yeah, like I don't know, like I don't see this as much as interesting as
so
just like
so I
kind of
guess
like
it's not a very high bar to cross. But I think relative to like the type of show this is and the things you typically expect, it it was something. Like
Yeah, I mean there
the
was something there.
the fact
I
that there was
don't
anything to
know.
these characters at all, like the first episode was really so bad. So the fact that there was
Yeah.
anything to the characters at all in the second episode just made it feel so much better that for a second I considered putting this in my pause list instead of dropping it. But I'm pretty
Really?
sure but I'm pretty sure I'm not actually gonna finish the show.
I
So I
see.
ended up putting
Well,
it
you
back in
haven't
my
even seen the second episode, Mr. Thicc, so you can't judge
You know
her
what? I will watch the
for.
second episode of this podcast. It's like
Hmm.
not that I. It's not that.
Don't do it.
It's not
Do not-
necessarily.
You're not gonna like it, I promise you. But still,
It's a,
But like
I mean,
I don't
it's a
know. I
little bit
just
melodramatic.
because even when like got like the whole like introduction of like everyone, right? Like at a certain point, there's like a thing where like the guy, where like the tsundere glasses guy is like, oh, I got into this school by working really hard, and then the other lady is like, oh, I got into this school because my dad is like a person, and they like, or like I met someone who like referred me to go here, and then the glass guy gets like a little bit like pissed about it. Um, like sure,
Oh
that's like
yeah, I mean that's interesting because like it's showing like classes and like developing the world kind of.
yeah, sure. It's like it's not that like there's absolutely nothing there, but like and like I don't know, like I don't remember much of like the Aztec War like stuff. Maybe I should rewatch it sometimes.
But it is also a very common trope in these type of shows. They have like the nobles and like the lower class and stuff.
It's not like enough to be like interesting. Like yeah, sure. It's not like completely like hot dog water, I guess, but it's still like ketchup water. Like yeah, It's just not.
yeah.
It's just not interesting.
I get what you're saying. All I'm saying is just that I see the potential there. I can imagine this becoming something greater down the line. Maybe probably not in the anime, but like maybe the light novels
I think the first
develop into
episode would have
something.
been a little bit better if you took out the entire part of the characters introducing themselves and then like
Yes.
took
Which
like
I wonder whether that's gonna be like
and then took like the opening part of the first episode with like the fight and stuff and put in episode 1.
no, it's just like at the end of the day, all of this is just so like archetypical
Like
and like cliche.
I'm not like implying that this show would become like a 10 out of 10. Like I think
No,
at most
I get you. No.
Yeah.
I think at most it's probably like a 5 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd probably give this a 5 from what we saw of it.
Where would I put this? How does this? I want to say it's equal to like Liar Liar.
I also want to throw out there, as I always do with the behind the scenes stuff. You're gonna like this one, guys. This was made by Studio JC staff. You know, the same studio that made In Another World with My Smartphone. LOL.
It
But they,
felt like this was trying to do like kind of a cinematic look to it.
well, the weird thing about the animation is the colors were like kind of weird, like I don't know if saturated is the term, but there was something that wasn't quite right about the colors. Like maybe warm is the color I'm looking for, which is weird considering the tone that this show is going for. I don't know. But incidentally, the studio that made this also made Eden Zero. Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon? And another show we covered in this podcast, The Duke of Death and His Maid, which is a show that I keep telling myself I will watch, but I haven't yet, or I haven't finished it yet.
That
And the
one is
director,
alright.
I don't even remember that.
it's the one where like if the guy touches the maid, he will literally die.
And the maid has
Oh,
big boobas and really likes the guy and is constantly horny for him, but he can't do
so,
anything because if he
something
touches
like
her,
that.
she will die. And it's like, oh, hijinks.
And the show is
Okay.
directed by Masato Matsune, who did When Will Ayumu Make His Move, which is another show we talked about. And he also did Interspecies Reviewers.
Oh no.
So
Just keeps going down. Just keeps
so
going down.
I guess what I'm saying is this show better have a lot of fucking.
Yeah.
I mean, this show is pretty hardy for the samurai girl, so it might happen.
True. I thought it was like somewhat tasteful relative to a lot of anime, but
Yeah,
They
that
didn't
was fine.
show her total boobies, yeah.
there wasn't
Yeah.
anything. I don't know. There wasn't
It was
anything I really
very
noticed in this.
tasteful high school girl getting undressed. Very true, very true.
But
Okay.
anyway, just like
It's
I guess
tasteful by
I'm
anime standards.
I'm in a way like sympathetic to the show just because I have a soft spot for shows where like it's clear that the author like was really passionate and trying. Like I feel like I can feel the emotions behind it. They just didn't really know what they
There
were
just aren't good
doing.
emotions. Very true.
So basically, like you like it because it doesn't feel like sort of like cookie cutter light novel. It actually feels
Yeah,
like
But how is this not
it
cookie
feels
cutter?
like there's heart behind it.
How is this not cookie cutter?
No, I mean it's definitely cookie cutter in some ways in that like it's clear
Well,
it's very
I
derivative,
like
but
wonder. What do you mean with like heart behind it?
there's I feel like there's a difference between like assembly line and made by love, even if the thing that's made with love is like kind of
yeah, because
bad.
Yeah, but like,
assembly
yeah,
line would be something like Asterisk War, you know.
sure.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
And I feel like there's a little bit more going on with the characters
I
and
guess it's not complete bottom of the barrel. It's not complete fucking trash. It's just slightly better trash. I guess I can give it that.
yeah. It's not the entire dump. It's just a trash can.
Yeah, I think I would put this on the same level
Yeah.
as Liar Liar.
Damn.
Next is Undead Girl Murder Farce.
Oh yeah, I watched this one. We watched this. You watched this one because I watched it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about a guy who's half demon, and he kind of lives in like shitty like Japanese village town, and everyone just sees him as the monster. But he's kind of like resigned himself to the fate, and he's figuring like, oh, one day, because his like job is like fighting other demons, so he's just like everyone just sees him as like the filthy like demon fighting
It's like
guy.
a fight club thing.
Yeah, and everyone just kind of sees him as like a subhuman like class of like the place they're living in. Um, and then he finds a lady who is kind of like who's just an head, who's immortal and is just an head, and she's like, oh, I need someone to fight my head, and I think you're the guy to help me with that. And there's some shared connection with like a professor guy who like killed her apparently, or like took her body and like made like the demon guy. And yeah, and that's kind of like where the episode ends.
I was really sad that they put the severed head chick in the like thumbnail of
Yeah,
this show because it was a really good reveal
yeah,
that like they had this cage covered and they were like building it up like what's in that cage, and then they finally show and it's a talking head.
yeah. Yeah, I think I like this one a lot more than most of the others I watched. It's definitely a bit slower. Like this is one of those animes where it's kind of like hard just from episode one, because most of it's just like kind of like setting up stuff that needs to be set up. Because I did like the whole like kind of like talking with like the kind of like just like the conversations they had for what they revealed about like the characters. I did think that part was like still like interesting enough. And just
Yeah.
like the general like vibes, like this genuinely feels like a more like mature between quotation marks like show, and it doesn't feel like complete like trash novel, light novel trash. Um,
No, you were right the first time. Trash novel trash.
Trash novel trash. And yeah, yeah, just like the vibes generally good. The characters seem a bit more complex than you would see in other shows. Yeah, and just like the vibes of like all the like supernatural like horror stuff. I think it was done well.
Yeah. It's I'd probably agree with everything you said. My main issue with this was just that, yeah, it was like a little bit slow, a little bit
Yeah,
dry for like the first half. But once they actually get into like the objective of like talking about like we gotta take down the guy who cut off her head or whatever, I thought all that was pretty interesting.
yeah,
I I don't know if it's enough to let I don't know if it's hooked me enough to keep watching, but I'm like mildly intrigued.
You Nanatsu whatever has have you hooked, but this hasn't.
Well, I wouldn't say it had me hooked.
But-
I'm curious about the light novel of that
Okay,
one.
interesting.
I definitely won't watch more of the anime though, for the record.
No, the
You
anime.
just
I wouldn't be
that's
surprised
just
if even the
interesting.
manga's better.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I might watch this. I would watch more of this. It's definitely getting close to it. But I don't know. Even a lot of the praise right now is just like relative to all the other stuff I watch. It's complete trash. And like I said, I don't know. It just looked like sure. This one is like slow. This first episode is definitely a bit slow. It's definitely setting up a lot of stuff. But here it's clearly it's like with like purpose. Like it's like showcasing like
Yeah.
oh this is what the demon guy is about. Oh here you have the setting of like how shitty the setting is or like how shitty the people are to him, and it's like oh here's the beheaded lady. She's talking about her situation. Like it's slow, but like there's clearly it's like just like setting up the stuff that needs to be set up, and I think that's like wholly
Yeah.
different than like slow without a good reason.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah, okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's and I know I will maybe I will watch more of this. But I don't know it's gonna like keep my attention for like a particular
Yeah,
long amount
it
of time.
like it definitely has like the potential to turn into
Yeah.
something good,
Yeah.
but just in my experience with these kinds of shows, I feel like it tends to keep the same pace and it never like it's like Jigo Karaku. Like I kept hoping that Jigo Karaku would speed up, and it
Which show
never
is that?
really did. It was something we watched last season. It was
Is that Hell's Paradise?
yeah, that was Hell's Paradise.
Yeah.
It's like about
Mm.
a a ninja guy that goes to Hell,
Oh,
which is a physical place on Earth.
okay. Yeah, I remember that show. I think I read a bit of the manga. That wasn't that slow,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, it was faster than this, but it still was like a little bit slow for my taste.
Like the thing I would be most curious about is whether like the thing I run into with a lot of series right now, which I really don't enjoy, it makes me like really turn off from like watching stuff. Is like the point where you notice where it's like okay the show is really kind of like is okay with like the status quo as it is right now, because I can totally see it happen. Like it could be interesting that what the show might like turn into, but it could also be that like it's just gonna be like oh them going to places and doing stuff, and it's just gonna keep
Yeah.
doing that for like most of the episodes until like the last few episodes where something big will happen and it'll be the end of the season. Like I'm like that's like the biggest thing where I'm afraid of. Where like okay, I can watch more of this, but it might like turn into that, and then I will just like drop it midway through. But yeah, but I don't even really know what the show's about. Like it's yeah. I guess I will at least watch it for that. I might actually watch this now that I think about it. At least a few more episodes just to see what it's about.
Oh, I will say I did like that the the main character is literally like I guess kind of his part of his motivation is that the head chick is
Yeah.
offering like a cure to his condition because eventually like the Oni is going to take over his body and then he's just going to be a full monster. And up to this point he was literally just like, yeah, I'm working in this fighting ring so that like when the Oni takes over, I'm
I'm
just
just
going to
gonna
kill a
kill.
bunch of
I'm just gonna
people.
kill as many as possible. I'm just working this
Yeah.
shitty job just for the prospect of killing all my customers.
It's literally like school shooter mentality from this
but
guy.
this one is justified because people are generally shitty to him.
Bruh.
Well, I mean, it's true, right? Like everyone treats him like shit, and he's kind of like put on his fate. His fate is just kind of to be like kind of like a second class citizen for like all of his life.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like that's something that makes me feel like oh, this show is a bit more mature because at least like you have like this character compared to like light novel trash. To be absolutely like clear, I'm not saying that this is some kind of fucking like modern masterpiece. Where it's like, okay, you have kind of this character in like a shitty situation, but it kind of has like made up his mind what he's gonna do about it, and he's made like a decision. It's kind of a grim decision, but still like his. Like I don't know. That's like the stuff that I miss from like a lot of these like shows.
That's fair.
And yeah, like I said, the vibes are like cool in this show, especially also with like the maid lady with the big ass gun.
I like the head. She looks like I forget what you call them. The dolls. The dolls
No.
that Dress Up Darling is named for.
Yeah.
Hina? Is that it? A Hina doll?
So that sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. She kind of looks like a Hina doll, which is interesting.
I
Yeah,
mean, she's
the art
supposed to
in this was
be
pretty alright.
kind of like Japanese, like royalty, or well, not like royalty, but like she's supposed to be like noble or whatever. So it kind of makes sense that she's like dull. Like, how would I rate this? Fuck, what's my rating again? Yeah,
I'd probably give it like a 6.
I would probably rate this the highest from all the stuff we watched.
Interesting.
I can see that.
You can? Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I'm more offended at you disliking like vending machines so strongly than you like liking something more than it. Because I get that like isekai are not everybody's cup of tea. You know, it's just personally I can see so much appeal and like coolness in it.
My favorite isekai is Owl House. No, I'm kidding.
The next show is The Masterful Cat is Depressed Again Today. Do you want to talk about this one, Coco?
Yeah. So this is another show by Gohans. So the Handshakers crew is back once again.
Let's go. Oh yeah, I saw that.
But you know what? This is the show I was talking about earlier when I said that if Gohans just like reined it in a little bit, or a lot of bit actually, they have the potential to be actually kind of decent. I mean, you
Yeah,
definitely.
this show actually looks fine.
Yeah, it actually looks pretty good. Um, it still has like some Gohan's moments here with camera angles and stuff, but like it's not it's not constant, and like I feel like some of the moments where they decide to have dynamic camera movement or whatever is like it's like kind of okay. Like there's this one scene where the cat is like dragging the girl to her room or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was fine.
Looks nice.
So yeah, but the plot is that this girl lives with her cat, except her cat is not at all. Well, actually, I was gonna say it's not at all a normal cat, but in some ways it actually kind of is. Uh, but it's a giant fucking black cat that's kind of like her house husband.
It's a furry.
Which incidentally on Annie list recommended underneath this show is House Husband, so there you go. um and the cat loves cooking for her like a lot, and it loves when it loves when its owner praises him for doing a job well done for cooking and shit. Basically this cat is literally like taking care of her, like yeah.
It's so there's something so strange about this one because clearly like the it's I guess it's just very transparently like a fantasy for working women. That it's like every working woman just wishes like, man, I wish like my cat would also like be my husband, I guess. Be my house husband and like
Wasn't that one show with like the fox maiden girl that was like taking care of the working guy? Like, is it exactly the same thing as this?
I haven't seen that, but it sounds
I mean,
like
me
it could
neither, but I
be.
know like the premise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been done.
I think this premise of like, oh, working person, but they got like a mystical creature at home that like takes care of them, and they can come home back to, is like a kind of also becoming a trope now. It already is a trope.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
this show feels like it feels like a anime based on what it must be like to live with a furry who's very committed to pretending to be a cat. You know, they like jump on you if you don't wake up. They fucking I think it's implied that the cat doesn't even shower because he doesn't like water. So like when he takes her to shower, he like puts himself in like a hazmat suit so that he doesn't get any water on him. So that cat must be like stinky as hell at this point because like what the
Stinky.
fuck? But yeah, it seems like this show has a great focus on cooking because a lot of time is spent with the cat like making food for her to eat when she comes back from work, and like the episode ends with like him making sweets so that because one of the colleagues like gives the main girl like a little like cat house thingy for the cat to sleep in. And like obviously he's too big to fit in it, but like the colleague doesn't know that because the main character hasn't told any of her work colleagues about like her unusually large cat. But he still likes it anyway.
A piece of tension that's like, oh, like how am
Yeah.
I gonna explain that my cat, I guess, is sort of like my husband? Like that's kind of weird.
It's actually funny because at the start of the episode, she's like looking up like what's like the size of the largest cat because she's clearly like still like it's implied she's been with this cat for a while because there's a flashback where we see her find the cat on the street and it's like the size of a regular cat. It's like a kitten. And like so basically it's implied that she's been with this cat for quite some time, but she's still like bewildered by the fact that the cat is that big. So she's like still trying to like find information on the internet about it. And oh yeah, I was gonna say before, the cat really likes the cat house thing, but obviously too big to fit in it, so he wears it as like like a sleeping helmet, I guess. He wears it when he goes to sleep, like a sleeping helmet, because I guess that's a thing now. And he like makes sweets out of gratitude for the main girl to give to her colleagues, but like she comes very close to revealing the fact that the cat made it because everyone thinks that she's the one who made the sweets. But she's like, well, I don't want to reveal. Like, first of all, it would sound weird if I said that my cat made this, but also I don't want to reveal the fact that I have a fucking big ass cat at my house. But then it also turns out that like one of her colleagues, like a guy
Her
colleague,
boss knows the cat.
yeah, the boss knows the cat. And also, I think some of the people at like the apartment complex she lives at knows the cat too, because like there's this old lady who's like familiar with the cat, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for helping me take out the garbage." And yeah,
I assume he like goes out shopping and stuff.
yeah. The episode preview for the next preview shows him going to the for the next episode. It shows him going to the store to like buy food. Because again, it seems like this show has like a great focus on cooking, so it shows him like going out to buy vegetables and stuff um at the grocery store. And incidentally, with talking about this show's focus on cooking, I mentioned how good this animation is, but there is one scene, and this is somewhat forgivable because it's not like a important moment or anything, but he's watching the TV and watching like a how to make certain food thing. And I'm pretty sure that footage of them like making that food is real footage, just like filtered to look like animation. But like I said, it's not like it's not focused on for very long, so it doesn't really matter. But ultimately, It seems like this is a sort of a slice of life comedy show about a girl and her giant cat. Uh, and
It's like
maybe there might
Hiyashige.
be some weird bestiality stuff there. Who knows?
Oh, let's
Bro.
go. Never mind. I should
May-
watch this.
Maybe this will turn into Inukai-san's cat. We don't know. There's a scene earlier where a girl is like one of her colleagues is saying to her like, "You can't own a pet because owning a pet is a surefire way of making sure a guy won't want to marry you." And it's like, oh, are we gonna be like, oh, who needs to be married when I have my cat husband right here? Because marriage is like a thing she thinks about a few times over the course of the first episode, and it's like, are we gonna go the bestiality route?
All I'm saying is he can consent.
Bro, Bobby,
Bro, but is she neutered though?
no, I don't
I
know.
doubt she'd neuter him.
I'm just trying to imagine that gigantic ass cat like screaming as you fucking do that.
Bruh. Bruh Bobby.
Yeah,
But
are we
yeah,
going this territory right now?
but
I
yeah,
did not need that in my mind.
Oh, yeah, bro. Imagine that fucking woman on cat person action, bro. Would be fucking wild. Okay.
oh yeah. So, as I mentioned before, the studio for this show is Studio Gohan's, and the chief director for this show is the director for The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses. So it's kind of interesting how like the animation in this isn't as all over the place as that. But I personally believe that it's because the actual director, so not the chief director, but like just regular director on this, is someone who's actually worked on like actually good things, you know? So the director of this show is a guy called Katsumasa Yokomine or Yokomine, I'm not entirely sure. And he's worked on quite a few classic shows like Gurren Lagann and Welcome to the NHK
Man, what
and
what a step down.
and Samurai Champloo. And he's also worked on Monster. So
That's
I'm
quite
just
Fair
saying,
enough.
I'm just saying that the reason why the animation in this is like actually kind of good and not all over the place compared to the girl I like forgot her glasses is probably because of this guy. Because if if the other guy was directing this on his own, it probably would have been just as bad and all over the
It
place.
would have been goated.
It would have been another Room Shakers. So that's the
Yeah.
first
Another
cat.
ball
Goat
shaker.
shakers.
Yeah.
I'd give this like probably a 7, light 7.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. It was good.
Yeah. I thought
I
it was
probably
pretty.
probably
I
should have
thought it
watched
was
this.
fun. I would say this is probably my second favorite show of the season after Zom 100.
Level 1 Demon Lord and 1 Room Hero. Do you want to talk about this one or should I?
No, you can open this one.
Okay. So, yeah, it works out because, well, we both just watched it.
Yeah. Literally finished watching it 10 minutes before we started recording this.
Yeah, as did I. So, this one opens with, the typical it's the hero, it's the demon lord. The hero successfully slays the demon lord, and the demon lord is pretty cool about it. He's just like, oh yeah, like as expected of the badass
He has a lot of
hero.
respect for the hero,
Yeah, he really respects the hero.
which is very
He's
important
like,
for this plot.
yeah, and like but like just so you know, someday I will revive and defeat you. And then we get a time skip to when the demon lord is finally being revived, and he comes out as a tiny chibi lolly demon
Oh no.
thing.
Oh no.
No, he's a Shota. He's
Oh
a Shota with
no.
long hair. He's a Shota with long hair.
Then
Surely.
why is he wearing a skirt?
Feminized.
because it would be funny.
Surely
he's a
this.
Oh.
he's a Shota because when he's like initially reborn, when his assistant is talking about how he like woke up too soon and therefore he's like prematurely developed. I mean it's like cut out in the subtitles, but she's about to refer to his penis as a sign of him being underdeveloped. It's like your pee, and then
Jesus.
and it's like what of all the things you could
Oh.
point out to talk about how he came
Oh
up
my
with-
god, you just reminded me. Can we talk about the servant chick's vaginal bulge? They just like they keep finding ways to like have shots of her ass.
Yeah,
And she's got like this skin tight swimsuit thing on. And you can literally see like the outline
It's actually-
on it.
it's actually funny that you say that because when I was watching this, I was like, okay, let's not be hypocritical, Coco, because I fucking like it's like a shot behind her, like behind her butt, and I was like,
Yeah.
I fucking hate when the internet always complains about shots like these because it ends up like, particularly with women, obviously, because then it ends up being like one of those camera angles that is just like unacceptable to do if the character in question is a woman. But then, like 2 minutes later, like the demon lord refers to her outfit as like like disgraceful or whatever, and then it closes up on her ass again, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. So-
I was like,
I
there's
mean, well,
something going on with those camera shots. Could be, could be.
No, there's a part where like she's got like her legs spread and the camera zooms in on that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay,
Like
so-
they're really the camera's really interested in this specific area of this character.
yeah.
I wonder why.
Like the first shot felt like you could sort of give that a bit of a pass because it felt like a natural shot, kind of, even if it was
Yeah.
literally a shot of her ass. But like every other shot after that, it felt like, okay, yeah, so we're just gonna voyeuristically like,
I mean, air shots aren't usually that like normal, right?
I don't know. I feel like you don't. There's always that shot where you're like behind a character, but you're not like behind their shoulder. You're behind their leg, and like you're like a low angle. And like I feel like the only time people ever criticize that kind of shot is when it's a woman because people
Yeah,
automatically
because
assume
now
that.
because it's always like women when those shots like it's not like this like a common shot
Oh,
that
no.
usually happens. People just
That's the
complain.
thing. That's the thing. It's not always a woman. Like
It's because of how they draw them. It's
That
it's
too.
like the She-Hulk shot that you linked on Twitter the other day,
yeah,
where it's like, yes, it's not an abnormal shot, but she's got some buns. What it reminded me of
Exactly.
is like in SpongeBob when it shows SpongeBob's ass and it's just like two
well, I mean,
like
the problem with
little buns.
the problem with the She-Hulk one is, yeah, it's the fact that she has an ass, but it's also her suit as well, because it's like similar
Yeah, it's
to
like
the it's similar to the outfit the
magically
character's
skin tight,
wearing here.
adhering,
But like
Yeah.
vacuum sealed.
It's also like a swimsuit too.
it just doesn't happen that often that you have those kind of shots with like male characters.
No,
Eh,
you just don't notice because they don't have a giant ass with a vacuum
I
sealed
don't know.
suit
I don't.
on.
I feel like because like I'm picturing it in my head, and I feel like I can think of a few shots in like Naruto, for example, that look like that. Like say for example when Naruto and Sasuke are about to fight or something.
Yeah.
Where it's just the ass.
It's just like it's no, not the ass isn't like front and center. It's like in a corner, and what you're focusing on is what's in front of him. But like it's like a low angle shot where it's like I mean like a leg shot, like it's behind his leg, which would include his ass. And then but what you're looking at, it's like a golden ratio thing where the golden ratio ends. I don't know if anyone, Aarlon, you know what golden ratio
No,
is.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where the
It's
golden,
like the squares where it does like a nautilus. It's like a
yeah,
spiral.
yeah, and like the focal point of the ratio is what's in front of him. Not like
Yeah.
even in the shot what we're talking about, the shot, like, yeah, her ass is in the shot, but the focal point of the shot is the demon lord. It's not her ass.
Yeah, but like a lot of the times it's like incidental in those cases that there's like some amount of ass. But like
Yeah.
with those kind of shots that you're describing, like yeah, most of the time it's like, oh, that's like the focal point of the actual important thing that's going on, and here's some ass because all of our viewers are horny. Like that's I think that's definitely a trend with like women being filmed in like most media.
There's
I don't think that's
definitely
that
no
like
denying that that's part of the. There's definitely no denying that
yeah,
that's part of the point here.
and that's not
With the
necessarily the
show.
case with something like Naruto or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything besides this show, besides the vagina bulge and the guy having a small dick? Like,
No,
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten to the
we haven't even
main
gotten
point of
into
the
the plot
show.
yet.
Yeah, we
okay.
just got a little bit hung up on the vaginal
on the
bulge
ass,
there,
on the
but-
badge and the ass. Okay, continue.
So she's like asking about like, oh man, like I must know. So the
Yeah.
reason she's or he's tiny is because he specifically awoke early because he wanted to meet the hero before the hero like
Yeah. He
died.
was asleep for only 10 years. And it's
Yeah.
probably meant to be way longer than that.
So he's like asking the assistant like, so what's the hero up to? Like what amazing things has he achieved? And she's kind of just like brushing her off, being like, ah, well,
Him.
we don't really know what he's up to. So she's like, okay, well, like if you're not gonna tell me, I'm just gonna go see for myself. So she tracks down the hero and
Aarlon,
comes into like
you're
this.
misgendering the demon lord.
Sorry, I'm sorry. He tracks down. You're
Nah,
right, Coco.
I'm kidding.
That's
It's
very transphobic of me.
alright.
Uh, he tracks down the hero, and he comes into this like tiny apartment, and it's dark,
Yeah.
and you see it's just like totally fucked, like
The main
trash
character
and
has
tissues
basically become
everywhere.
a hikikomori, kind of.
Yeah, and he like kind of just like turns over in his futon and is like squinting at him.
Yeah.
And the hero's like, what? Or the demon lord's like, what? What? Like, where's the hero?
Yeah. He's like, I must have, oh, I'm sorry, I must have mistaken you for someone. And then he's like, well, you got my name right. And then the demons are like, oh, surely you're kidding, right? You're just joking. You're just, it's like, no, I am actually him. And then the demon lord is like, how did you get here? What the fuck? Why aren't you like, I don't know, more famous and in a more significant position in life?
Oh my god! The when the demon lord is like going around the room, he's like this place is a mess, and he like picks up like a tissue off the ground, and the guy's like, oh,
He's
all
like
right,
very, he's like,
that's really brave of you to be
he's
touching
like very brave of
tissues.
you to just pick up tissues in a stranger's house.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
then
even, to put that in perspective, I don't even pick random tissues I see in my own house. Okay,
yeah,
like
and then he picks up what is clearly
that
a
puck sleeve.
flashlight,
Yeah, it's a puck.
and the guy like swipes it out of his hand. He's like, well, no,
Yeah,
do not touch.
yeah. And there's a scene. This guy is a chronic coomer because there's a scene at the end of the
Yeah.
episode where like the demon lord walks in on him like going through. First of all, this guy is like an absolute noob because he's looking at pictures of girls on Google Images. What the fuck? And like the demon lord is about to walk, like he is seconds away from starting jacking off. Like literally as soon as the demon lord walks in, he's literally in the process of taking off his underwear.
Just like me for real.
No, I mean he's clearly like this is his tragic flaw. He is a tragic hero, and his flaw is that he's a chronic coomer because like at first he says like, oh, the reason like I'm in this state is because like the world realized that like they didn't
In a
need
time of
me
peace.
anymore.
Yeah, when I saw
And
that, I was like, "Oh, that's like interesting," because it's like it reminds me of like how we treat like ex-servicemen or like war
yeah,
veterans. It's like, "Oh yeah, you've served your purpose. Now fuck off and die." But like,
yeah.
but
But
then
then it turns out that actually he just got in a bunch of different scandals and controversies because he kept like cheating on women and sleeping with women and having affairs.
yeah, he fucked someone else's wife,
He got canceled
and he
for
claims that he
being such
didn't
a
know that that
boomer.
was the wife. And then he gets in like fights with
Yeah.
people as well. He gets into a bunch of controversy, yeah. And then the demon lord is just like, wow, you're like a way worse person than I thought, which must have been like, I found it very interesting because like any other villain would just be like, oh well, this guy is like clearly out of the way. I'm just gonna fucking take over the world now. But like this demon lord is like clearly a fan of the hero, but possibly even gay for him because of the way he like talks about like his facial features and his body. He wants to fuck this hero. And he's like so disappointed in where the heroes ended up, and he's like, how
Yeah.
could you fucking stoop so low? And then there's this scene where I don't think the main character actually meant it, but like the demon lord is like, well, okay, I'm just gonna go and kill your friends now. And then the hero is just like, yeah, have fun with that. And then the demon lord is just like, you fucking piece of shit, how could you fucking be okay with me? And then he goes to attack him. And actually, this is the part where they reveal that like the hero like still has like all his skills and is actually very much still capable of like kicking ass. And
I
then
mean, he is buff still. He's not fat at least.
yeah, and we kind of
Buff
get
from all that jerking off.
we kind of we kind of get this brief moment where like they show that like maybe the hero isn't as like jaded as he is, because it's like as if my friends would ever lose to you. And there's something somewhat salvageable there, and it's not like he's completely abandoned the world, because he's like, well, I mean, a new hero always comes up anyway, so I'm not that concerned.
He's just jaded. He's not a he might be a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy, you know.
He's not a total piece of shit. There's just something,
Yeah.
there's room for improvement.
I am kind of curious about what this show will be because or like the episode ends with like the demon lord leaves and then he immediately comes back and starts making soup. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm living here now and I'm going to rehabilitate you."
He's like, I'm gonna rehabilitate you, and also to aid in my conquest in taking over human society, I need to learn about like how human society functions now. Which, incidentally, that's one thing that kind of interested me about this show, was the fact that you would expect. I mean, this probably should have been like a given from the poster, but you would expect this show to be like similar to like other fantasy shows with this type of like, the Demon King hero trope. Like it takes place in like the 1400s or whatever. Whereas like human society in this story is actually like pretty developed, and like it pretty much looks like modern day Japan. And I actually kind of dug that.
I mean, what it reminded me of is there's been a couple shows where there's like a demon lord that loses their powers and becomes like a lolly
Hmm.
demon, and then they just end up having to live a normal life because of capitalism and crushing debt.
Yeah.
But what I like about this one over those is that the demon lord is he's not like miserable and being forced into this situation. He's purely doing this because he respects the hero and wants to see him return to that person that he once was rather than
Yeah, he's like leaving someone of this caliber to like waste away would be like a complete waste. And
yeah. He wants him to realize his potential rather
yeah,
than being a hikikomori.
yeah. I guess what we're saying, or what I'm saying, is that I would like a demon lord that recognizes my potential to come into my life and help me realize my potential.
Mood. But yeah, I think I'd give it like a light 7 based on the first episode. I probably might watch more because I am
Yeah.
interested just to see where they take it.
I want to watch more of this too. In fact, I think this might actually be my second favorite after Zom 100. And then Depressed Cat is my third. Incidentally, this show was made by a studio I've never heard of called Silverlink, but they've made a few
I've
familiar
heard of
shows.
Silverlink.
They made Masamune Kun's Revenge, and they made a show that I mentioned earlier that was directed by one of the people who worked on the previous shows. When will Ayumi make his move? But
Which was really boring.
they also made Parallel World Rhapsody, which is
I don't
also
think I've heard of that one.
Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. I mean, I've never seen it, but I heard it was pretty bad. Um, and the director is a guy called Kensuke Inoue, who directed or worked on Don't Touch the Eizouken. He also worked on Masamune Kun's Revenge, and he also worked on Chivalry of a Failed Knight, a show that I actually kind of want to check out one of these days because I heard it was kind of okay.
By the way, you just reminded me. Can we appreciate the fact that the cat is clearly not depressed in the Masterful cat is depressed again?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that's actually one thing I did notice, and I'm not entirely sure why it's called
Yeah.
that.
He never showed any sign of being depressed. He kind of just like
Uh,
was doing his thing as he seemed pretty happy being a house husband.
Yeah. I mean, you could say he has like a bit of a mood sometimes, like he's kind of serious.
Yeah, he's stoic,
Yeah,
but he's not depressed.
yeah. And he gets like really happy when she's like, "Oh, this food is delicious." And, you
Yeah.
know, maybe he gets depressed later on. I don't
That would be a sad direction to take it.
know.
He like realizes he hates being a house husband and becomes
Well,
depressed.
even a house husband has to go out sometimes.
All right. Synduality Noir.
Oh, this
Oh
one.
my. Oh my god, I forgot this show existed.
Yeah,
I
I can't
I
summarize
legit
this one
Oh,
I'm
because
I
not
can
even
I don't
joking.
summarize
I
it.
remember the
legit
plot.
I'm not even joking. I legit forgot that we were going to talk about this.
Do any of us remember the plot?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Alright,
Mhm.
so it takes place in a post-apocalyptic future. And there's these guys, and they're called scrappers, I think, and they like have to find crystals or whatever. I know it's not really important. Then the guy finds like a cute anime girl robot waifu, and he takes him home because apparently in this world you need like robot waifus to operate your mechs. Takes
Yeah.
her home, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do with you because you don't really seem like a useful robot." And there's like a tsundere pink haired girl who's like, "Oh, I wanna like you, Baka." Hijinks, very much hijinks.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's some other like groups that are also like scrappers. Um,
There's
and
Pac-Man.
is there Pac-Man?
Yeah, no, there's a scene where they're playing Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Um, and then they all get like attacked by the big monster thingies, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, we're getting attacked right now. And he like gets into the mech, but he's not really prepared because he just wants to protect his friends, his people. And then he's fighting off guys, and then it turns out that the cute anime girl android waifu, who he thought was useless, is actually some kind of like super special robot waifu who like is able to super good control the mech, and they kill all the bad guys, and that's the end of
And
the episode.
they dare to make the mech in this show the same color as Unit 1.
Oh, I was thinking
fucking
of Joker car.
a fucking pale imitation. You are not Unit 1. Bro.
No, it's clearly Joker car.
Well, it's purple and green.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's Joker.
His
That's Joker car.
In,
That's Joker mech.
but
his arc was kind of about like self-confidence and like
Yeah, I
coming into his
guess.
own. He didn't think he could do it, but he could with the power of waifus.
With the power and like
and the
his
Because
main
this
friends
is
all
a gacha
dying.
game.
the main character's motivation is to reach some paradise that he's not even entirely sure actually exists.
Oh, like Sanji.
That's like, yeah.
That's what.
Because like Sanji from One Piece, he wants to find the
Oh.
all blue. He's never
I
gonna
was-
find it, by the way. I'm just saying. Anyone
Yeah.
watching this who's reading One Piece, that's not gonna happen. The all blue is not gonna happen. Anyway, moving on.
No, it
And-
is gonna happen because they're gonna blow up the red
Oh,
line,
yeah,
and
they're
then the
gonna-
all blue
Okay.
is gonna be in the red
It's
line.
gonna be all the oceans and yeah.
Yeah.
Why do the mechs in this look
Yeah.
like chamber pots? I want to know.
I thought the mechs looked okay. Like,
Yeah, I
they,
agree.
They kind of have
I
like a
didn't see
dorky
that
thing
coming.
about them. I agree.
They
But like,
do. They look like you could open it and take a shit on inside it.
okay, that's your imagination. But like, that's I like that they look a bit different than most mechs. It's not like the whole like
Yeah.
Gundam thing that you usually see.
Well, it's a
At
good
least
thing
gives
that
them a bit more personality.
at least these mechs aren't just like ripoffs of Avas, which I feel like a lot of mechs are sometimes. Like
Yeah.
I brought up Astro Score before, but that's also a show that like has mechs in it and they just straight up rip off the design. Or actually, a show that I watched recently, I mean this is a Western cartoon, not an anime, but it's also trying to be an anime. My Adventures with Superman. The mechs in that are
yeah.
also Ava ripoffs. So
I generally don't like the whole like anime trope of mechs where it's just like, oh, it's just like a like really like extravagant like robot design. I like when they look like they're actual like machinery, like stuff that is like made to do like a function. And I feel this one, like, not that it's like the prime example of that, but this one kind of like touches.
you're not like a fan of stuff like Gundam, then.
I mean, I like Gundam, and there's some Gundam designs which I do like, but I don't. Yeah, I don't like the super robot designs of those. I way more enjoy robot designs like these, where it kind of feels like, okay, this kind of feels like their machines are like made for a function.
Yeah.
Even though the function is still shooting big guns.
Yeah, when I was watching this show, because Aarlon mentioned it earlier that it's a gacha game.
Oh,
I really
interesting.
kind well, I don't wait, is it actually a gacha game? I know it's based on
No, you
a
looked it up, didn't you?
I know it's based on a game because when I was like what I was gonna say is when I was watching this, like it wasn't like the Arc Knights adaptation where it's like so obvious that it's based on the game because they're explaining all the mechanics or whatever. But like something about it just gave it away that this feels like it's based on a video game. Maybe
Wait, what about it gave it away?
that I mean that's what I'm saying is that there wasn't really
You
like
just had a vibe.
it just had a vibe about it that made it. Maybe it's the fact that it had something in common with another video game adaptation, which is to say it had absolutely terrible CG with the enemies. Like fucking
What? It's funny you say that because I was gonna say like I felt like one of the probably the best thing about the show was that it actually looked really nice. And I found it interesting that the CG in this was like very obviously CG, unlike a lot of like they've gotten so much better at CG these days, but the way they usually make it look good is that like it just kind of blends in with the 2D. It looks like it could be a drawing. But in this, it is like clearly 3D, but I felt like it looked really nice
I mean,
regardless.
it might be okay with the mechs, but with like the enemies, like the little monster things that they're fighting, I thought it looked pretty bad with those. I didn't think that looked good, like at all.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I don't
Yeah,
remember ever like feeling like, oh, that looks bad.
yeah,
I was like,
but
ooh, like even though the show is like kind of boring plot wise, like I'm vibing with the aesthetic.
I was more getting more like light novel vibes from this, but that might have just been me then.
No,
I
this
didn't get light novel at all.
this show reminded me more of stuff like Darling in the Franxx or Decadence, you know, or even Attack on Titan. It's like, oh, we're like more so Darling in the Franxx than like the other two. It reminded me a little bit of that because it's a similar plot where like they're in this sort of like human society is like dwindling and now they're in this safe zone and the enemies come and attack every now and then they have like this
Yeah.
squad of pilots with mechs
Yeah.
and they go after them type thing.
But like in this show, it seems like they're pretty like okay with everything.
Oh, actually, now that I
Like-
think about it, even the fact that you have to have like a partner in the form of like one of these droid
Yeah,
things.
that's the Franks thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Oh, but is it a metaphor for sex?
no. There's not a
Same.
scene where the characters are literally like moaning as if they're having sex, like in Darling in the Franxx.
I actually think I kind of like that they don't immediately make explicit who's a robot and who's not.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, oh, like two characters are introduced, and you're like, oh, this is just like a person, and turns out they're actually a robot. I thought that was kind of nice. It's not like they're all like made like in one specific way where it's immediately like clockable.
Oh, incidentally, when I say that when I bring up my criticism of the mechs looking like chamber pots, Aarlon put a picture of a mech and a chamber pod on screen at the same time and let the viewer decide.
Okay, I'll do that.
Um,
I got a lot of visual editing to do in this one because I also want to show the golden ratio.
Yeah,
true.
and that wiki sentence.
Yeah.
I actually think I sort of like this one. It is a bit boring and it is super like generic, especially super generic. But like I don't know, this actually felt like it had like it was like based actually like a actual story would be based, which is like really special to see these days apparently. Yeah, it just I love the like the setting. It's like oh post-apocalyptic, and oh they're like fighting against a generic robot enemy that was like coming hordes, and it's like oh he has like a tsundere, pink hair, girl interest, and oh now he has
Yeah.
like the Ray archetype, like oh robot
Yeah,
girl.
I was gonna say, like, you have your purple and green mech, you have the you have the pink girl who's kind of a tsundere, and I'm just saying pink is kind of a shade of red, and you have your
Surely.
you have your blue-haired deadpan anime. Bro
Girl.
thinks it's Evangelion. You're not Evangelion, fam. Stop.
I mean, this guy actually wants to get in the robot eventually, so
Oh yeah, that's
it's
true.
not really like Evangelion.
Yeah.
I'd probably give this like a 5. It's probably on the
God
same
damn.
level as Ava.
Holy shit.
I would probably let's think here. I would probably put it below. I would just put it just below 100.
Oh man, Aarlon, you need to make sure that Dillo doesn't watch this because I feel like he'll crucify you for that.
That was a joke for the record.
But he did give it a 6, which means he thinks it's only marginally better. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it was
Well-
okay. I think I will put it like between like Go with Glasses and Zombie 100.
What?
That is very interesting.
I don't know. It's just actually like based like a story. Like it's at the
Mhm.
beginning, and then he meets
Man.
the girl. It's like, oh, I'm gonna now decide to like fight back. I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually now you guys say like, oh, this is actually like for a gacha game. It actually does make sense in retrospect because this is actually like again, it's not like made like super well, but like it's like now I think back on it, it's like yeah, it's like it feels like it's made for like an anime. Like it feels like they like made this from the ground up for like an anime episode. If that makes sense.
That actually wouldn't surprise me because I didn't look too much into like this game, but like I said, it really doesn't like I got the vibe that it might be based on the game, but it doesn't feel gamey, if that makes sense. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's not like Arknights. It's
Yeah,
not like
what was this?
Arknights where it's literally explaining the fucking mechanics of the game.
You have that one show. I don't remember what it's called. No, I can't remember what it's called again. What's this show called again? This show.
Synduality
Synduality
Noir.
Noir.
Sin. Holy fuck! What?
Synduality.
Synduality Noir. Okay, let's see. It's a Japanese mixed media project.
Ah, I see.
Let's see. What's the rest of the media project?
Well, I'm assuming one of them is a game. Maybe there's a
It's
movie.
an anime, it's a manga, and it's a game.
Ah,
A third-person shooter, an action RPG, and a light novel.
first-person shooter.
Third person.
Oh, third person. Is it a mech game or is it
Third-person
like you just
shooter.
use regular guns?
I don't know. Okay. Yeah, it's
Huh.
like super generic, but at least it feels like it's like made for like an anime.
It's actually funny because when I looked at this on AniList, the reason why I watched this is because I saw the character designs and I was like, oh, those character designs look kind of cool. That means this won't be generic. And then I watched it, and
Oh yeah, it's a mech game. You shoot with the mech.
interesting.
Neato. Next show is The Last Helck.
Helck.
Helck, yeah. Fucking
Nice one.
Helck. What the Helck?
Oh my god, they got a Subaru crossover with Synduality Noir. Oh, I gotta watch it now. Okay. Okay, last I gotta say that. Yeah, Helck was good.
Yeah. Helck is a show about. I mean, the reason I watched this is just, well, for one, because of the cover. I love his big Chad face on the cover. And then for two, the premise sounded interesting. That it's basically like the hero already killed the demon king. And now in the demon world, the demons are having a tournament to decide who the next demon king will be. And a human named Helck, who is a Giga Chad, has entered this tournament. And one of like
And it should be worth pointing out that it's initially assumed that he is the hero.
but he's not the hero. But
Yeah.
they assume he's the hero, I guess. And yeah, he's like dominating in this tournament, and one of one of the main demons is seeing this, and she's like, wait, what if he's just like working for the humans and then he's going to like sabotage us by becoming the demon king?
I'm just saying,
She's like,
she's racist as fuck to humans, and all the other people in the audience are mega progressive. And I'm just saying, get out of here, you anti-progress fuck.
I
true.
I actually laughed out loud when they were like, "Yeah, why is this guy fighting in the fucking demon? He's supposed to. He's probably fighting against us." And he turns to the camera. It's like, "I hate all humans." And everyone starts laughing. I actually thought it was a really funny moment. I laughed at that.
Yeah. And then I was like, relatable. No, I'm kidding.
I love Helck. I love his silly laugh. He's always going ho 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 ho.
Chat laugh.
He's just so excellent.
Yeah, it was. I might actually want to continue watching this. Maybe it'll be just like Farce, where it's like, okay, I want to kind of see where it like goes. But like, it's funny, and there seems to be like enough like, and the plot seems interesting with like the questions of like, oh, what's going on, what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might watch more of this. Maybe.
I think if I were to continue this, I'd probably read the manga because it seems like they nerfed the art style a little bit in the anime, which is an unfortunate thing that happens.
I agree, and the pacing also, I get the sense that they slowed it down a little bit.
Yeah.
The pacing felt a little bit slow in this, and like we said, that's something they have a bad habit of doing with comedy mangas.
Yeah.
So, but Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised at like how interesting this starts to get as it goes.
Hmm.
Like the situation, it's not just like a full-on gag manga. They are like
There is a plot
doing something. Yeah, there
Yeah.
is a plot.
because spoilers. Because spoilers. At the end of the first episode, uh, the red haired the red-haired girl uh thought that Helck was the hero, but it's revealed that Helck's brother was the hero. Actually, the funny thing is, I thought Helck was the hero too, and I thought that like I was sort of siding with the girl. I was like, you know what? Well, not siding, but like sort of assuming that she might
Yeah,
be right.
her concern was understandable.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, there might be, maybe he is the hero, and maybe he does have like some ulterior motive in trying to take over the demon. Uh, but then it turns out he's not the hero, and his hero was his brother, who, am I misremembering this? I think it's like literally stated he killed him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he killed his brother, who is the hero.
Yeah, and we haven't learned why yet, but I'm assuming there's gonna be.
And
There-
it's revealed the end like the angels are coming down to fight
Yeah,
the hell people.
Hmm. So
there's
there,
like
Oh.
angels just completely like fucking them
so
because
there
they're
are
super OP.
there are things going on here.
Yeah,
There is a
Yeah.
plot. It's not just a gag. There is somewhat you could say there's even a bit of a mystery because like why would he kill his own brother? What the fuck's up with
yeah,
that?
It's also clear that stuff that like that one particular rule about him like not being able to like harm anything outside the tournament, like that's gonna
Hmm.
come up somehow or like become more important. Like you can already
Yeah.
tell with like how much like emphasis they put on it, which also shows it kind of like takes into account the like rules it like sets up that they're like important.
I do also like that this is one of those. I mean, I guess it makes sense because it is somewhat gag-ish, or even just fully gag. But I do like the fact that him being like really competent and like also overpowered is like they actually like it's part of the joke. They acknowledge like the absurdity of it all. It kind of reminds me of like a Raleigh or like even Goku in like early Dragon Ball. Because nowadays, like with fantasy and like isekai shows where the character is overpowered, it's played like 100% straight, 100% seriously. Like, no, yeah, it's, and this is an interesting
I
breath of
mean,
fresh air. It kind of
it's kind of
reminds me of Mashal in that regard, actually.
yeah. I mean,
yeah. I was
it's not
thinking
really
that
like
too.
a new thing, right? Like One Punch Man also already did that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I feel
I mean, Marshall was clearly inspired by
Yeah.
like one
yeah,
heavily.
like I feel it's becoming way more of a trope, or like it's already a big trope where it's like, oh, the main guy where it's about is like super overpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be
But I mean,
curious.
it's a good trope. It's good in
Yeah,
Marshall and it's good in One Punch
I
Man.
wonder
It's good
how it's
here.
gonna like develop with this one, whether it'll turn out to be like, oh, because like he clearly is like planning something. So I wonder whether
Mhm.
like the main question isn't obviously like, oh, is he gonna like win the trials or whatever, because that's like clear, like he's really good at everything. I wonder where it's
Mhm.
gonna.
Yeah,
I hope that the main thing is gonna be like, oh, how is he gonna steer the demon kingdom into like what they call, I don't know, like protecting like the world or whatever. I hope that's gonna be something like that,
yeah.
or I assume it would be.
I mean, the demons clearly kind of suck,
Do
but
they?
like they're all
They're
super weak, even the front runners.
oh, they like I thought you meant they suck as like people. I was like, they actually seem like normal people.
Yeah, they're like pretty chill and nice actually as
Yeah.
people.
And actually one thing I want to give, well, this is like a half credit. Uh uh I feel like this show kind of strikes a interesting middle ground of having the background characters not look totally generic, but also like they don't super stand out. Like they don't look like they could be main characters, but they don't look like super generic the way some. But it might also be because they're monsters. Whereas like, so you just draw like random shit that looks vaguely monstery.
No,
As
no, you
opposed to
gotta give them credit for like just because you can make an ugly ass looking monster. The character design in this is definitely good.
I
yeah.
mean, most
No,
of
I
the time
just
it's just like simple, except when it comes to stuff like the main like demon girl.
I just like the fact that there was an attempt to like add variety with the because they could have just made them all like goblins or something. No attempt at all, but there was actually an attempt to like add variety and have some designs for like the background characters.
Good art, good design.
Yeah,
I definitely see what you mean about like anime adaptations always sucking the life out of the manga art. I feel like that happened for a few shows this season,
that
honestly.
happens a lot. I feel like you have to have like a especially talented like character designer and director for it not to
Well,
happen.
it's also more just like it's really hard to like animate really complex characters, character designs constantly. Like, of course, the manga art is gonna look better than the anime art because it doesn't need to like move. Like that's always been the
Yeah,
case, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
but like in fairness, like I feel like it even goes the other way a lot of times. Like Coco, you and I the other day were talking about that Netflix movie.
Which
Uh
one? Flix Note?
no, no, no. It was like some comic that got adapted and it's been like pretty popular lately.
Oh, yeah, I
Oh,
know which one you mean.
Super Crooks? Super Crooks?
N- No, I
No.
know the one with the pink haired girl, right? There's like kind of like
Yeah,
shape
yeah,
shift,
that
yeah.
one.
Which
Oh
one?
yeah, but that one had
Oh,
like really,
Nemona. You
yeah.
mean
Nimona, yeah.
yeah, Nemona,
That's
yeah.
That we
that's
were
a movie.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, but I'm just saying like th- yes, it was a movie, but I'm just saying like if you compare we were looking at the art for that and it's like if you
It's a
compare the
totally different
movie,
art style.
yeah, if you compare the movie to the
Yeah,
comic, the movie like it looks a little bit different but for the most part it just looks like another like like Disney
Yeah.
Elsa type
It reminds me
art
of it
style.
reminds me of
it's a
Guri
lot more
Hiru's art.
stylized.
Yeah, it's a little bit more stylized, but like the
Mm.
character designs, I feel like looks like a little bit like Elsa like. But then if you look at the comic, it's like very stylized. They've got like the dot eyes and stuff.
Yeah,
So I just feel like
Nemona is like the comic there has very like simple art, like even compared to
Yeah.
like
yeah, it's
most
very
mangas.
simple.
I would have liked if they adapted it that way though.
So the point is just that like it goes both ways. That like it's not just when it's like complicated art that they bring down and
Hmm.
to make it more simple. They also will take simple art and will make it more complicated to match the like standard art style.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like what they did with like I mean, don't get me wrong, I love how East Blue One Piece looks, but they kind of did that there too, because if you look at how the
Yeah.
characters look in the manga, they look slightly chibified and their proportions are more cartoony, whereas in the anime, they definitely add a smidge of realism and like less chibified proportions. I I feel like sometimes it's just a matter of like the person they get to do the character designs not being able to quite accurately capture the art style. And sometimes there's also the fact that they just don't even try. Like I don't know if you guys have seen like the SAO manga. Like I'm just saying like art style of the SAO manga looks way better than the anime and we might have avoided an entire generation of anime that look like SAO if they actually just were like, yeah, no, let's do the art style of the manga.
yeah, but I don't know. I don't think I really agree with that. It's just like in a manga panel, you can put in so much more effort and like
But
way
I
more
don't mean like
detail.
I don't mean like in terms
It's
of
not about
detail.
effort though.
I don't mean in
It's
terms
about
of
detail.
detail. I mean I'm talking about the fact that the art style looks like a totally different art style. Like I mentioned One Piece earlier, but like at least the art style still
I'm
vaguely
also not
resembles
I'm also not
Oda's, you
necessarily
know.
talking about like detail or whatever. But like if
Hmm.
you're like have got like a manga panel, it's just that you can put in way more effort per drawing. You simply can't do that with like anime, like drawing wise.
I don't know
to
if
be
that's
like
true.
But it's
animated.
Because,
not.
I
It's
don't know if
not
that's true
about
because
the effort.
I think of like Berserk '97, like the Berserk. So not 2016. Berserk '97.
Yeah.
I mean, you can argue it's not as detailed as the manga.
Yes.
That might actually be true, but it still looks good in its own right. It doesn't feel like the soul was sucked out, you know?
Sure, but like I also think that those kind of shows are kind of like exceptional, right? Like not all the shows are gonna have that much like budget or whatever, especially with like a bunch of like seasonal stuff.
I don't. The thing is, though, like I
Like
don't
Helck
think
is
it's
not Berserk.
necessarily. It's not necessarily harder to animate this stuff. Like there might be a little bit more work in like the thought that goes into making the character designs, but like for to take another animated movie for example, if you look at like the Captain Underpants movie, that movie really closely matches the art style of those books slash comics, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't get the sense that that movie was like a particularly high budget, high talent
But the Captain
production. They were just trying to be faithful rather than converting it.
Underpants like really simple, right?
Yeah, but no, that's what I'm saying though, is
Yeah,
that
but
it even
like most
applies.
manga, but like most manga isn't
But
like that style. It
I
isn't
don't
like or the other example you like brought
I
up.
don't think the art style of the Helck manga, because we're talking about Helck, I don't think the art style of the Helck manga is like that detailed though. I mean, I haven't read it, so I can't say for sure, but just of the little bit of art that I've seen, I don't think it would have
Yeah,
been
and like
that
again, it
difficult
absolutely
to
does
capture.
matter. You're like animating stuff. Like when you're
But we're
animating
not
stuff, you simply can't like put in that much like effort per like
Also,
we're
chapter or
not
whatever.
as
we
far
are
as
not disagreeing with you that like if a manga has a very detailed art style,
mhm.
it's more difficult to adapt. But what we're saying is that they also tend to have a disposition to doing it when it's not even necessarily going to be much harder to adapt. Like, for example, when you do have a simple art style in
Yeah.
your manga.
I guess that the Hulk manga art actually looks kind of ugly. That's also why they changed it.
I thought it
Well,
looked
shit.
fine. I thought it looked better than the
Really?
yeah.
Like you think that like how Hulk looks with his little tiny little head looks
Well,
better than the
I saw like pictures of like the red-haired girl, not Helck himself, but
and the red hair girl looks mostly the same.
yeah.
I like Giga Chad Hell.
I know. It just seems stupid to like complain about not a perfect translation from like manga and anime when that's like completely like unreachable unless you're looking at like a very
No,
high
I mean,
resolution.
I don't think that's true at all because I think of shows like Dragon Ball Z where like the show arguably even well, it usually depends on the storyboard artist
yeah.
and like
It's
which
like
really
imagine if they did that to Dragon Ball. If they just were like, oh, well, like drawing the triangular eyes or whatever is too hard. So we're just gonna give them like the normal Kirito designs.
oh my god, that is the most nightmarish thing
But
I've ever
like,
heard
can
in
you
my entire
guys
life.
like
What the
like
fuck?
but like now you're also like bringing up like Dragon Ball, which is like one of the most like popular shows ever.
Yeah, it's one of the
And
most
like
well, I mean, it is now, but it wasn't when it first came out. That didn't make the standards any lower when it initially started.
and like I'm sure I can like find that like even there's like a downgrade.
Well, I mean, there's definitely no. Here's what I'll say about Dragon Ball. Like, well, this is the case for every anime, really. Every anime lives or dies by like two things. One, who the character designer is, so the one who did the model sheets. Because it's not oftentimes it's not the person who drew the
Yeah,
manga. It's like
yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah,
different artist who's trying to
yeah.
recreate the art style. But then the
And
other thing
it's trying to recreate the artist and also make it like doable to constantly like animate.
But the other thing is also like the storyboard artist and the lead animator and the one who does the keyframes. So that's actually more than two things. Never mind. But like I feel like with Dragon Ball, for example, yeah, there's terrible animators, but more often than not, the character designs, I mean, not they actually do a pretty good job of capturing Toriyama's art style. And sometimes they even have some lead animators and storyboard artists who like actually upgrade it, which I know is a controversial statement to say that there are some moments that look Like they make it more detailed. It's like a combination of Toriyama's art style and like some other art style that just like completely upgrade. Basically, like imagine like if there was a Murata for Toriyama, like there's a Murata for one.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I know it's already really hard for animators to just like draw stuff on model when it just comes to like normal shots, which is not really that much the case for like manga drawing, because they can just like, because that's just one guy working on it, just drawing like one
I mean,
page or something, or like one panel or something.
I definitely agree that that's the case for like in between frames, but that's what the keyframes are for.
I mean, even in keyframes, like I don't know, but like it's a lot of the times in like anime, it's like hard to like keep a character completely on model because there are a lot of people working on it instead of like one guy who's gonna have always
Mhm.
gonna have like consistent style.
Well, yeah, but that's usually what the lead animator slash director is for, to make sure everything's consistent. And they do corrections.
Yeah, sure, of
They,
course.
they
Of course, there's like a certain point of like cohesion, but like that's hard to do. And like
yeah.
when a character, and like it's absolutely the job of a character designer, or like a character designer when it goes from like manga to anime to also like adapt the character design to like be more animatable. I guess for like a
Yeah.
better word.
Yeah. The problem is just when they get lazy with it and like they could make a perfectly animatable translation
Hmm.
that is still somewhat faithful to the art style, but
Yeah.
rather than doing that, they're like, well, it would be a lot easier if we just took like the default anime art style and did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of a feature, not like a bug.
Really? I don't think I'd agree with that.
Wait, what? I didn't get
I
that.
mean, like it. I'm sure like it would lead to more ugly shows, but it would also lead to a lot more like diversity and better adaptations is the thing.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to mention is because when they do that, it makes a lot of shows like you can see you can maybe even tell that there's a different art style, but this is mainly a problem I have with how shows are colored than how they're drawn. Um, it weirdly makes anime that you would think wouldn't bleed in together kind of do, you know?
Yeah, they
Like I
kind of
don't
do
know,
similar color palettes
but it kind
Yeah.
of
nowadays.
makes. But I don't know. I'm looking still to like the Helck like pages, and like I don't know, Helck looks kind of goofy in like the manga pages. I don't know how you could like. It kind of makes sense that they kind of like standardize this like look, because his look is like kind of all over the page in the manga. For what I'm like
Mm,
looking at real quick right now.
I don't know. I guess we just have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's our Helck hot takes.
All right.
Where would I put Helck? Probably right next to Murder Girl Farce. Probably.
So pretty favorable. Moving on to final thoughts on this
uh,
season.
well, this was the show that I watched the most amount of seasons of, and this
You
season,
mean the season that you watched the most amount of show? I think it might be having a little bit of an effect on your brain, Coco.
bruh,
Might be melting your brain a little bit.
this might be the season that I watched the most amount of shows. Well, in a while. Definitely not the most amount of shows, period. I still think that might just be the first one, actually. But
Yeah.
my final thoughts is this has convinced me not to do that.
It's so unfortunate because the last season that you watched a bunch of shows was also just getting out of the way. This season was pretty mid, and so was the last one that you watched a bunch of shows for. So it's just like bad timing. Like why didn't you do it last season when there was a bunch of weird, interesting shows?
Where is that? The Hell's Paradise season?
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like I watched the at least the good shows that came out that season.
No, you watched a good amount of shows.
Yeah.
But I just felt like everything I watched that season was, even if it wasn't good, it was just very interesting.
Oh yeah, like the fucking cheat skill show.
Yeah.
and his
It
fat
was
fucking
bad in a very interesting way.
his fat fucking face.
His skinny guy face with fat added onto it.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought this season was well, I was about to say okay, but actually, how many
It
shows
was
did I?
mid.
How
It
many
was
shows
mid
did I
as
like?
hell.
I have not really seriously watched anime for like a long ass time, especially not like stuff that just like released.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this was very rough. I there's a
I
reason.
This was the worst season in a good while, I'd say.
Is it worse than the Shikamori season?
Uh,
Wait, actually,
I don't think I'd
which was
say
your
that.
worst season? Was it that?
My worst season.
Actually, the worst season for me was probably no. I was gonna say Inukai-san, but I actually got some amusement from the shows that season, like Inukai-san.
I don't know. My worst season is one of the ones that like I don't remember anything from it because it was all boring. Yeah, this season was not. I mean, there was like a few all right shows. I liked Psalm 100. I liked Helck. I
Mhm.
liked most of the isekai that came out, even though I didn't talk about most of them.
Bobby.
I will say that Zombie 100 was like the only like anime I would like call like high quality in like in production sense.
Oh, like in terms of
Yeah,
the visuals, it's definitely one of the better looking
Yeah,
ones. Yeah.
like I mean, I know what I said about the story, but that's just like the writing or whatever. But like as like a production, as in like the directing and stuff, like that one is the only one that felt like a proper like there's a whole ass anime that's trying to do a thing instead of like everything else.
I think for me, the best looking shows this season were probably Zom 100 and The Masterful Cat is Depressed.
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
The Masterful Cat is Depressed has like even though it has like a little bit of that jankiness,
Hmm.
it also had like some shots that were impressive and actually looked good.
Yeah.
Uh, like the one you mentioned, or like the one where they're like chasing each other in circles. There was like some gifable animation in that show.
Yeah.
I also think like this season, just in general, I feel like this was the season of bad pacing. Like,
Yeah.
aside from like Zom 100, I feel like most of the shows, even the ones I liked, had like overly slow or weird pacing.
This might be one of those situations where not many people, because when an anime is like brought to anime, they do write a script out for it.
Yeah.
And this might be
Mhm.
one of those cases where said script was probably too one-to-one to the source material.
I guess. I think it's just about how much you are trying to fit in an episode.
Yeah, there's
Like,
that too.
It's like I find it kind of hard to say about knowing like the source material because also contributed to the source material is just like trash.
Yeah. But
yeah.
to any of the people that made these shows, as long as you're not as bad as One Piece, you're okay.
So fucking true.
That is a very low part, Coco.
And with that being said, since I've decided to make it my personal mission to shill One Piece, go and watch One Piece. And don't listen to anyone who tells you that you have to watch it uncut first, because you don't.
That's that was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, I mean, at this point, we're getting to the point where that's not possible. There's not enough hours left in my life to watch all of One Piece uncut at this point.
You're not that old.
Hey man, I managed to catch up with one. Well, I caught up. By caught up, I mean I managed to get to what was it, Zoe? I managed to get to Zoe
Yeah.
in like 3 months. So, but then there's some people I
That
see.
shit has over 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, it's actually nearing 1,200.
Oh my
I mean 1,000.
god.
I'm sorry, 1,100.
Okay. Wait. Okay, let's just do the math on this. Time for
Maybe
20 minutes.
Oh shit, we can
Divided.
actually clip this part and make it a One Piece pacing clip.
no.
Get the
I did not consent to this. I did not consent to this.
get those One Piece views. It's the most popular anime of all time.
So I'd have to watch a little over 15 straight days
Yes.
to catch up with One Piece.
Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Yeah, so watch One Piece or read the manga.
Yeah. I read the manga in like a week last time I reread it, so.
Nice.
And
And
is
also
there
look
any?
and also look forward to our spin-off series, the Paw cast with Aarlon and Coco.
But yeah, I'd probably give this season like a 5 out of 10.
God damn.
It was not a good season.
No.
There wasn't like a show I was super into, I don't think, because like I was into the manga for Vending Machine, but like I already read the manga for what I watched, and like I felt like the anime was inferior. So like there was no. I feel like usually there's at least one show that I'm like super into, and it was mostly just ranging from like bad to decent for me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah,
for me, this season was kind of like how I feel about every season.
Bobby.
It was all right.
Yeah.
I
Again,
think
I
there's
haven't.
I think there's only one season that I've ever been like, this season was great, and that was the Chainsaw season.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that had Bocce the Rock, that had fucking
Yeah, it was kind of a very rough season. Wasn't really anything interesting, and mostly like super like trashy shows. I feel like.
All right, promo. Coco, shout out your stuff.
well, you can find me on YouTube at British Lassie. And you can find me everywhere else, either as Tamika likes to draw or Tammy likes to draw. So Twitter, Instagram, Threads, etc. And yeah.
Mr. Thicc, do you have anything to shout out?
No, not really. I think so. I'm just my entire being is a work of art. So I'll tell you.
You're just a humble poster.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
say that. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna really anything.
You can find me on TikTok. I am doing a series where I review 100 system manhwa now.
Yeah. And if Aarlon adds the commercial, you'll see the preview. But if he doesn't add the commercial, there'll probably be a link in the description.
Yeah, it's at Aarlonn. There's 2 N's on it because Aarlon with 1 N was taken.
Imposter.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and if you guys want to talk about these seasonals or anything else, weeb shit, game shit, my least favorite topic, political shit, then yeah, you can join the server in the description. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Chopper's doctoring.